the end of time.
O'clock.
Hey, you guys, what's going on? It's Wednesday. We're back again.
Wednesday again.
We recovered from talking about the Greasy Strangler yesterday.
Yeah. And today we're going to take you back off into the world of the paranormal before the weekend comes. It's hump day. Every day is hump day for Tom.
I somehow knew that you were going to say that.
Sometimes we take you to the stars, take you to the damn crime scenes, take you out into, the distant quarters of the planet. Today we're going to take you into the world of the paranormal. This is ghost planes, right? You know what it's
Yeah,
called?
ghosts on a plane.
Yeah, ghosts on planes, like snakes on a plane.
Kind of.
The ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least kind of like, well, okay. Now, initially, what was voted for on the Patreon thing was Ghosts of Flight 191, which is what we're going to talk about. I wasn't sure if there was enough info there to fill out a whole show, so I'm going to do another case as well, like another kind of like haunting that had to do with a commercial airliner. So we're going to talk about Flight 401 as well, which is maybe, I don't know if it's slightly more popular. It was maybe more popular like in the 70s and stuff. There was like urban legends about it because they made like a TV movie. There was like a book that came out in the 70s.
Yeah, I remember it. I remember.
Yeah. Both of these happened in the 70s, by the way.
Trey.
Thank you, Trey.
What do you say?
This is brilliant, guys. I love the old TV movie, The Ghost of Flight 401. Yeah, this is top tier quality entertainment right here.
Yeah.
You guys are killing it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
This was actually really, really fun. I think I remember seeing the ghost, but it's just one ghost, I think is the name of it, The Ghost of Flight 401, because it was a book that came out, I think the book came out in 1974. It's in my notes, but it's way down at the bottom. And then they made a TV movie in either 1976 or 1978, and I remember a lot of people being like creeped out by it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What?
Nothing. I'm just looking.
Oh, I thought you were like looking at something and like getting distracted.
I'm looking at that drink.
Oh, I couldn't tell what you were looking at.
So anyway, maybe about time for y'all to get underneath the covers with your fucking little tablet. Put your earbuds in. Get your drink. And let's consider this haunted airplanes. Can an airplane be haunted?
Well, okay.
According to Stephen King, even a car can be haunted, and it can possess you.
Stephen King is just kind of like haunted.
Yeah, haunted hotels.
Haunted house plant. Have I done that yet? Has he done that? Mm-hmm. Probably.
Yeah.
He's written so much stuff.
Having fucking been in bad houses before and seen poltergeist, it wouldn't surprise me if an airplane and a car could be haunted. Yeah.
The thing about this is technically not... Okay. Well, let's do like a quick summation. Like Flight 191, that's not technically a haunted airplane. That was like a horrible, horrible airplane crash.
Okay.
And then people reported ghosts and shit like afterward. And also there were like in the area. And also there were like some people said that they had premonitions too, like about it, like before it happened. So we'll get into that. Flight 401, which like I said is maybe better known, I'm not really sure, like at least as far as paranormal shit goes. That was the plane that crashed into the Everglades. And then the story went that they used parts from that plane like in other planes like that they had salvaged, and then like people would see like the dead pilot and stuff like on other planes. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there was that kind of stuff. So that's what it was. That's like technically a haunted plane, but the first one's not technically a haunted plane. It's a haunted plane crash site, I guess. So there's that. All right. So I'm trying to think of like if there's any shout outs. Probably not so much like on the live stream, but we have, I have enabled, what do you call it? Super thanks on the videos.
This is an awesome concept.
It's kind of like essentially like it's a little tip jar. That if you can't give stuff like during the super chat or some of the videos that we've recorded, there's like a little thing. It's like, I think it's like a little heart with a $sign in it or some shit like that. But they just started doing that like not too long ago. So.
What that means is that if you miss the live stream and you enjoy the show and you want to send us a super chat, but you can't because it's no longer live, you can send us a super thanks. That's the tip jar, and it all goes to Jenny.
Yeah. Well,
it all goes to Jenny. This is Jenny's job. I'm along just for a free ride. To me, this is just entertainment.
Yeah.
I guess my money other ways.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
You already got
I'm
money.
here to freely fuck up Jenny's show at any time. The only one that would be mine would be Asshole Boyfriend, AMSR, when I did my AMSR channel. And I dress up like fucking Ming the Merciless and do AMSR on you.
Although I'd still have to get some money for that if I was the one like editing it and all that kind of stuff.
I'd give you a cut. I'd give you a cut.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Because like I said, it is kind of like a lot of work, you know what I mean? Like doing
I had to buy the costumes and shit.
Yeah.
Imagine me in a Ming costume.
Well, yeah, see? Yeah. He was talking earlier about...
I have like a stripper Ming costume.
Oh, okay.
My arms and
fucking... That's a good idea.
and abs and shit with
Well, yeah, because you can't go around covered up.
No, you can't be covered up for AMSR.
Heaven forbid.
Hell no. Hell no. There's too many women out there. Too many women out there.
Oh, my God.
The end of the AMSR. I was thinking about it, though, because I was looking at other dudes' channel and everything, and they were all thanking him, you know what I mean, because thank you so much for having a strong bald male, because he's jacked, he's English, he's bald, got a beard and everything, and women saying I was abused, and it's nice to see a big strong guy who's gentle and shit. There's a lot of that shit in there, so I was like getting guilted reading that shit, and I don't even have my channel yet because I was going to be fucking with people on it.
Yeah, you'd have to like walk a fine line, I guess. I mean, you'd have to like make it pretty clear that it was like not meant to be taken seriously. Yeah,
it's like
because like I can see like some women that have been like really traumatized by like dudes that looked like that. Like it's like wow, it's nice to see like somebody that looks like a big bruiser like is a nice person. Yeah, I totally understand that.
One guy said, "Man, it's good to see," because his wife or girlfriend helps him on some of them where she's good looking too. She'll be basically nude, and you just see her back, and she's got long hair, and he'll do like a back massage on her while he's doing the AMSR, and people are fucking going crazy for that. And one of the comments is like, dude said, "Man, I'm a bald guy too. It's good to see a big bald guy being all gentle and everything, because we got the stereotype of either being some kind of superhero or supervillain."
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you got. That's kind of the stereotype.
It was the stereotype,
bald, so you know what I mean.
Yeah, he's all tatted up and shit.
You gotta own it.
It's called what's it called? Soft speaking gentleman AMSR.
Aw,
some shit like that.
That's so cute.
He's all tatted up and shit.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, I know it's a stereotype that people that look like, the people who look like you are assholes. Now, I mean, in your case, it's true.
Oh,
because you kind of are. You are an
fucking
asshole.
Indicator.
But, but I realize that not everybody that looks like that is an asshole.
I was an asshole before I looked like this.
That's what I was just gonna say. It's like it doesn't have anything to do with how you look, because you've always been an asshole.
Yeah.
Like as long as I've been.
Yeah.
Tom what is true? Tom Sykes says, "I've had it up to here with these motherfucking ghosts on this motherfucking plane." I knew that was coming.
Yeah.
Trey said, "Is it based off them reusing parts of that plane that crashed in the Everglades? Isn't it?" Yeah. At least that's how the story goes. Zach said, "There's a Colorado haunted train story I heard. Years after they tore the tracks out and put a highway in, the ghost will show up in the back of people's cars." Ooh, I love stories like that. Trey also said, "I had a teacher in high school whose parents were killed in that Everglades crash." Holy shit. Anything that's about plane crashes is like super traumatic for me. And honestly, doing all the research that I did about Flight 191, because that one, they there's like a lot of documentaries about how they figured out like what caused it. And like while I was watching these documentaries about what caused it, I was sitting there going, well, I'm never flying again. That's for sure. Like, I'm sure it's safe. And the fact that this horrible accident happened, which I'll get into, actually helped make it safer, because they were like, oh, they figured it out, but still, like, almost 300 people had to get killed. And that's, like, really sucky. But it's like, I mean, I don't like flying anyway, like, in the best of times, but this really did not make me feel any better about it. That's for sure. So, yeah. And, well, neither did the Flight 401 thing. Now, some people, Flight 191, everyone was killed. Flight 401, some people survived. I don't fucking know how they did, because the plane was just obliterated. But, yeah, some people did live through that. I think it was 75 people or something like that. Like I said, I'll check it when I get to my notes at the bottom. But a bunch of people died, too, but not everybody did. I don't know how anybody survived through that shit, but scary. Trey said, yeah, plane crashes scare me, too. And I've done a lot of flying in recent years, all back and forth to Detroit. Yeah, I mean, I used to fly a few times a year, and I always hated it. The weird thing about it is I didn't really start flying in planes until I was probably in my early 20s. And the first few times I flew, it didn't bother me, even though I was flying, like, over the fucking Atlantic Ocean, which I don't like, because that's, like, my two things that I hate, flying and, of crash in the ocean, and then you survive, and then you get eaten by sharks. No thanks. Those two of my least favorite ways to die. So, but it didn't bother me the first few times I did it. But then, like, one flight, I don't know, probably, like, the fifth or sixth one I'd ever been on, was just, like, horrible. Like, the turbulence was horrible. It was just, there was storms, and it was just, like, really, really bad. And it happened, like, only an hour or two into, like, a 9-hour flight. So then I had to sit there for 7-8 more hours on this fucking flight, and I was just, like, crawling up the fucking walls. I was like, get me off this fucking airplane. Oh my god.
I've flown a lot. Helicopters and airplanes. I've always loved it. Even if it was fucking rough and fast or the doors are open, I just always liked it.
I don't like it.
I loved it. The craziest air crash story I've ever heard was, and both these people lived, okay, and they were interviewing the guy. He was flying alone. He was in the very back of the plane. This must have been in the 70s or 80s, because it was late 80s I heard this on TV. And sitting next to him was a kid who was about 10, who was also flying alone. And the plane was going down. And I don't remember what had happened. I think they were going to have to belly in, that the landing gear wouldn't go down. And they were having a problem controlling the plane. And the little kid, and everybody's praying on the plane, you know what I mean? They had the plane went out of control. I think it flipped a couple times. All kinds of shit happened.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I'm just, like, freaking out just, like, thinking about it.
And this guy's trying
It's like my worst nightmare.
This pilot's trying to fucking belly it in onto the runway. And the little kid next to him says, he says, this thing's going to crash and we're going to die. It's going to catch on fire. And the guy was like, I bet you this kid's right. And right in front of them, because, you know, it was in some of the planes in the very, very back, there's the restroom, a couple of seats, and then the emergency door.
Yeah.
All right, and it was that kind of situation. And then right in front of him was the fucking door. And he tells the kid, he says, you know what we should do? When the plane gets low, right before it hits the ground, we should open that door and jump out. And he says, you want to? And the kid's like, yeah. So he was looking, when it was coming in, he looked out the window, and when they were about 40 feet off the ground and coming just about hitting the runway, he grabbed the kid by his arm and ran up and fucking knocked the door open, threw the kid out, and then he jumped out. And they both lived. Everybody else was killed. Plane skeened in, fucking caught on fire.
I wonder what flight that was. I've never heard of that.
In the
story.
80s. They were the only survivors. They were all busted up, though.
Well, yeah, but that's better than being dead,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it was probably going about 110 miles an hour on landing, maybe about that, 100 miles. But you can survive that, along with the fall.
Yeah, people have survived plane crashes before,
yeah.
even ones that fell out of the fucking sky. It's not...
They were probably only...
You know, it's unusual, but...
The tail was probably only 40 or 50 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
When
Which,
they
like
jumped
I said,
out.
You know, you might break all your
Oh, yeah, they were all
your
busted
legs
up,
and shit.
but everybody else burned up. Plane was fucking loaded with fuel. Landed on his belly, fucking, you know, burned up.
Yikes. That's, like, really scary.
Yeah.
Tom Sykes said they should have plane seats where you're in an indestructible hamster ball, but for humans, with a built-in parachute. See, I might fly then. Like, you know what I mean? Like an escape pod or some shit. Yeah, that's maybe the only way I would fucking do it. Like, from now forward. Like I said, I can read all the things in the world about how it's the safest method of transportation and blah, 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 blah. But I just don't like the idea of, like, falling out the fucking sky and, like, knowing that you're gonna fucking die. And
you don't really fall out of the sky, though. It usually has lift. You know? They usually
You
make
know
it,
what I mean.
Yeah.
You know what I
They
mean.
usually make it down to the ground and try to land it, and then it disintegrates. And, you know, they crash on landing.
It's usually that's what I
not
mean.
up in
But
the high-
I don't like that either.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's usually how it goes.
I
They
mean,
don't-
yeah, I
yeah.
feel like I don't know what the exact percentage is, but
Yeah.
the vast majority of crashes happen either on takeoff or landing.
Yeah.
And actually, we got one of each. Flight 191 happened
Yeah.
on takeoff, and Flight 401 happened when they were landing.
There was a couple of them where, you know, part of the plane disintegrated in flight and the people got sucked out. And some of them were in their seatbelts and riding in the whole way without a roof on the top of the plane, the section that they were in. That'd have been wild. There's a photograph.
That really would not
There's
have
a,
been.
there's
That
a
would have
photograph
been
of that
horrifying.
plane coming in and fucking part of the roof's gone. You can see the damn seats and people holding onto the seats and they're in the seat. But there's no wall or fucking no side to the fuselage and no top, just the bottom. And then you see the seats in there. It's probably about, you could probably see about 5 or 6 rows. 5 or 6 rows.
That's what I mean. Well, and it
Yeah.
kind of like reminds me of what the fuck was the? It made a big impression, but it was a few years ago. I think it was a trailer for a movie, or maybe it was that TV show Lost. I can't remember. But they had like and they had that like at the beginning, like in the trailer, where they showed like the tail of the plane like coming off and people getting sucked out like in the seats and
Yeah.
stuff. And it's like that. I can't even fucking watch that. It makes me like want to throw up.
They had another one that was like that, where a piece of the fuselage fucking started tearing apart, and it sucked a stewardess out, and she fell. They were like 30,000 feet, you know. way up
Yeah,
there.
I remember that story.
And she lived.
Yeah, she did.
She lived. She fell the whole way down and then lived. She she just had the speed was just right, and she hit the backside of a hill and it slowed her down. And it was it was like clover and grass, and it was wet. She was busted up, but she lived.
Can you fucking imagine? I would just like you wouldn't be able to believe it. You're like on the
Yeah.
fucking ground all of a sudden.
I think terminal velocity is about 120, 130 miles an hour.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
And, but she had forward motion from falling out of the plane. Maybe that got bled off, because the plane's probably going close to 600 miles an hour, 500.
Something like that. Yeah.
So it would take a while for her to kind of bleed that speed off, but she'd still be falling down. You know, she'd basically be hitting it at least 120.
Probably screaming her fucking head off the whole way down.
I'd be
I'd
spread
imagine.
out trying to be as much like a flying chipmunk as I could, man, on the way down.
It's like, oh, if only I had arm flaps.
Yeah. I've seen videos of people, I think it was in India, dude jumps out, maybe, I forget what country it was, jumping out of a burning building, and he had a damn mattress.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Tried to land on his own mattress. It didn't work, though. It turned upside down instantly, and he let go of the mattress.
Well, I mean, it was a good
It
thought.
was a good try, but he didn't realize it would do that.
I mean, he would have died if he'd stayed in the building anyway.
I'd have strapped myself to the mattress.
Well, I don't know if you'd really have time, and
Probably didn't have time, yeah.
you'd probably be panicking.
Yeah.
Like I would imagine.
You'd probably still hit first, though. It'd turn upside down.
Probably.
Turn
It's just
upside
kind of
down,
like
you'd-
that, man, toast always hits the floor buttered side down.
Yeah.
It's that kind of fucking rule,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Grabbing sheets and holding the corners together and making a parachute.
That's another thing. I don't love fucking tall buildings either. I don't really want to, like, live in a tall building or, like, work in a tall building or anything over the 3rd fucking floor. Yeah, no thanks. No thanks.
Fuck all that.
Because then if there's a fire, what? I'm not jumping out. Fuck that
Yeah.
shit. Fuck that shit. I don't like heights. I just do not. Yeah, they're talking about, there was a movie about the Flight 401 thing called The Crash of Flight 401. I remember hearing about that. I don't think I saw it, though. I remember, well, I'm going to say I remember when it happened, but I remember hearing about it. So, because, this is back in the 70s and I was a little kid. But, it was pretty, because I was just like, ooh, the Everglades. And like I said, anytime it's like a plane crash, I'm going to hear about it because I'm there. I find them horrifying. Larry Creature said, what about a mattress either side of you strapped around? Easy win. There you go. Put one on either side.
Make like a sandwich. And hope you hit on the side.
That
if you
might
hit
work.
on the side, it actually
Then
might be better.
Yeah, that'd probably be better.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
If you were strapped up in there. It might
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. If you can get your hand on like 2 mattresses and have time to.
I've come off my bike at about 70. You didn't have far to fall. So I can't imagine actually hitting straight into something at 130. You'd splat like a bug.
That's what I mean, because you just coming off your
Yeah.
motorcycle at that, like you were pretty busted up, and you had all like armor and helmets and everything on.
Yeah. I got up and first thing I did was run towards the bike. Oh, how bad did I fuck it up? Didn't fuck it up bad at all. I had sliders on
My
the bike.
bike!
Yeah, I was more worried about that. And then
Of course you were.
an hour later, I couldn't fucking walk, and I'm getting fucking, and then I fell asleep, and Jenny tries to fucking wake me up, and I couldn't even move. She had to
couldn't
feed
move.
me. Couldn't take my clothes off. I was.
Yeah, I had to take off his pants. I put a Big Mac like on his chest and like push it toward his mouth.
Yeah. And just, I was rock hard from just being, it was like you've been beaten by a baseball bat. So sore. It was just, everything was just rock hard. Couldn't move. Just fucking limping to the bathroom. I was pissing blood.
Yeah.
But I didn't say anything. It stopped after a while. So,
Yeah,
after a
you
few
told
hours.
me after
Yeah.
it was
all
already,
right.
because I would have made you go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And you didn't.
I was looking for shit like that. But it was just because I got hit bad on the side. It was like, I think it was just because, remember I got hit in the kidney?
Yeah.
Most of my body was just bruises.
I mean, I remember you called me at work and told me,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, I'll come home. And you're, no, I'm fine. And then I got home, and I'm like, you're fucking not fine. You were, like, laying on the bed going, ah.
Yeah.
And you couldn't move.
Yeah, it was because I hit a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an accident. Just going, and a cat jumped right in front of the bike. I couldn't stop in time. And I looked down and saw because it wasn't in the road and then you hit it. That's not the way it is. You're going, there's nothing in front of you, and down below I saw a cat jump right into the wheel. And I looked down and saw him in slow motion with his claws out and everything, like he was trying to catch the front tire.
Jesus
It was
Christ.
just this black cat.
Poor Katie.
As soon as I saw that, I locked the front wheel up. He got caught up underneath there somehow. And the front end slid out from underneath me.
Yikes.
And then next thing I know, I was on my back, sliding at about 70. And the bike was right next to me, sliding right along with
You're
me.
like, hey, bike, what's going
Yeah.
on?
And then I started to slow down. The bike kept going. And I rode it back with busted controls on the left side.
Yeah.
So I couldn't change gears.
I mean, considering the bike didn't really get... I mean, it got damaged, but not that damaged.
Not bad.
Like you said, it was still...
Mostly sliders and bumpers that I had on it got damaged.
Larry and Creature asked which bike it was.
It was a Buell XB12R.
Yeah. It's the one you still have.
Yeah.
You fixed it. But, yeah, I was amazed that it wasn't more busted up.
Yeah, actually it was the right side. Wasn't it? No, it was the left side. Because the shifter was busted.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
It was a
shifter
long
was
time
busted.
ago.
Shifter was busted, and the right clip-on was fucking bent in like that. But I was able to limp the bike back, and I was like in fourth gear when it happened, so I had to ride it back in fourth gear. I couldn't change the gears because the shift lever was gone.
Yep. That was a special
Yeah.
time. I always keep worrying, like, every time, because he still goes out on that bike once or twice a week. I'm always kind of
Alright.
worried that he's going to call me. And
It's
be
always
like,
something out of your control. It's never something.
well, how does
you-
that make it any better? That doesn't make it any
Yeah.
better. You know what I mean? Yeah, these people like are thinking the same thing in the plane crash. I'm like, that doesn't make it any better. They're still dead.
I'm all right.
That's fucked up.
All right, that shit happens, man. I'm stronger
know.
now than I was then. And I'm just fucking loaded up with anti-inflammatories too. So all the shit that I'm on, you just can't be. You can't. There's no swelling, you know. So
Tom Sykes is asking what's your opinion on electric motorcycles.
oh, they're good, real good, but batteries really aren't ready yet. They're heavy. There's a lot of speed, a lot of power. I mean, electric stuff is really where it's at. Once you can get the batteries right, a battery has to be light and has to be able to store a lot of energy, so you can have decent range, and you have to have really quick recharge. You know what I mean? So you're not sitting there for 2 hours recharging this fucking thing, or 4 hours recharging it, and only getting a 100-mile range. That's stupid. But when it comes to just electric motors, they'll beat internal combustion all the time. But they're trying. Look, that electric motor and the batteries that they're using will not replace internal combustion engines in performance, utility, and cheapness, not for another 100 years. This whole electric car thing, it's a scam. That's not ready. The batteries that can do it are extremely caustic and expensive and dangerous. They can catch on fire. There's all kinds of acids and shit in them. They're not giving those out to the public. The ones they're using are lithium, and there's a limited amount of lithium. Combustion is going to be where it's at until you can figure out how to make fusion energy. As soon as you can have an onboard fusion reactor to run your electric system, that's when you have electric. Hell yeah. And it is possible. We just don't have the technology. It's 100 years away. You want a fusion reaction about the size of a fucking toaster. That's what you want. And it just fucking boils water. That's all it does. And the steam power runs a damn electric generator. And then it runs directly to a wheel, and a front wheel and a back wheel, a motor in each hub. So you have two-wheel drive on a motorcycle. It would be unbeatable. And it's all torque. But the batteries aren't going to cut it.
Zach says Ana de Armas is officially an Oscar nominee for that Marilyn Monroe movie she did. I still haven't seen that. I know that you recommended it, and it looked really good. But I love Ana de Armas, but it's like, we'll get around to seeing it one of these days. You know who that is, right?
Yeah.
From
Blade Runner.
Yeah. There you go.
She's cute.
She is cute as hell.
She was also in No
in
Time to Die.
She was also in she was in Knives Out too, wasn't she?
Yeah.
She was also in Knives Out.
That's the ultimate Latin girl.
I do want to see that Marilyn Monroe movie though.
Yeah.
Still, I kind of forgot about it, but yeah, now that you reminded me, I'll go watch it. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's talk about some fucking plane crashes. This is gonna cause me a great deal of anxiety. Like even doing all the research for this was like stressing me out because this is literally like my worst nightmare. So yeah, let's talk about Flight 191. That's first story. So this happened Friday, May 25th, 1979. This was actually the start of Memorial Day weekend that year. So on this particular day, what was, I believe at the time, the worst airline disaster in American history. I think it's been superseded since then, but at the time it was the worst one. Killed 271 people, passengers, and crew. So the flight was actually going from Chicago. It took off from O'Hare Airport to Los Angeles, but it never actually left Chicago, as we'll see. So, as I mentioned, this is the start of the Memorial Day weekend. The plane, I believe, was full because it was a holiday weekend. And actually, there was also, there was a big, booksellers association conference, out in LA. So there was, a lot of literate, authors, book editors, stuff like that. A bunch of them were on the plane, too, because they were going out to the same thing. So the plane that they got on was a McDonnell Douglas DC-10. Now, they got on it just before 3 p.m. We'll talk about the DC-10 a little bit later because this crash, as well as some other ones, probably contributed to the DC-10 not having a great reputation. Now, this particular plane had flown, I believe, for 20,000 hours and was totally fine. Also, the crew were all very, very experienced. The captain was named Walter Lux. He had actually been flying DC-10s for 10 years, since they had first started doing them. Your first officer was named James Dillard, and you had a flight engineer named Alfred Udovich. So all of them, they had basically 25,000 flight hours between them. So there were no noobs, nothing like that. So 2:59 p.m., the plane is cleared to start its taxi down the runway. So it starts down the runway as usual. And then it's okay. Everything's going just fine. There's nothing, no indication that anything is amiss. It gets about 6,000 feet down the runway. The nose is not even up yet or anything like that. Now at this point, somebody in the tower saw parts of what they call the port engine pylon, coming away from the aircraft, and then saw some kind of white smoke or white vapor coming from there.
Probably fuel.
And then no, we'll
Okay.
I'll get into what it was. Now, a couple seconds after that, like just as soon as like the person called, was like, "What, what's that all about?" Because it was like way down there. And then the plane started liftoff. Now, side note, here's one thing. I think this was the most alarming fact that I learned while I was doing the research for this. I didn't know this previously, but when the plane is taxiing down the runway, before it's taken off, even like while all the wheels are still on the ground, there is apparently a speed that it gets to after which it has to take off. You know what I mean? Like you can't just be like, oh, never mind, and like slow it back down. You know what I mean? You can't do, like, you have to take off. And even if they are like, oh shit, like some critical thing is wrong, they have to take off and then sort it out like once they get up, which I was like, well, that's horrifying. I didn't know that.
Well, there's probably not enough room up in front.
That's what I'm saying.
They'll run
so
out of
it's
runway.
Like, so
there's like a point of no return.
Right. So I kind of didn't realize. They said, once it gets to a certain point, you have to take off. Like, even if you know that there's something the matter, like, you can't just, like, stop and be like, never mind, do over. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, again,
you wouldn't stop in time. You'd run off the runway and hit
Right,
something.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's, that was not a fun fact that I learned. But, yeah. So
I'm not sure they have brakes. Because I think most of those airliners brake by reversing their engine thrust with some.
Yeah.
There may be brakes on the wheels, but I think they might use the jet engines to slow it down. There's probably brakes on the wheels, but probably not strong enough to stop that thing.
I would imagine. See, I always kind of wondered about that. I'm like, not like you can just like slam on the brakes.
Yeah,
like you
it would just slide.
Right.
It would just slide.
I'm not really sure how it works. And honestly, now that I've learned that fact, I'm really not sure that I want to know.
There might be some brakes for when it's taxiing around at low speed, but I think they mostly just pull that thing around on a little tractor. You know, that little tractor that pulls the plane around?
Yeah.
That thing.
Tom Sykes says the plane crash scene from The Mummy and World War Z were horrifying on screen. Yeah, I remember those. Ugh. Like I said, I have a hard time like watching that shit, even in a movie, and I know it's fake. I'm just like, I don't like that. But yeah. So as this particular plane took off, like the nose went up, and while it was taking off, the entire engine, one of the entire engines, and the pylon came off the plane, like tore off the plane, flipped up and went over the wing. You can see there's animations of it like all over the place, like I said, which is like fucking horrifying to watch.
It's weird, it went up.
Yeah, it went up and over and crashed down onto the runway like behind the plane.
I wonder why it went up and didn't go down.
And I'm not real sure. Actually, I guess because the plane was going forward so quickly and it was kind of going up in the air like a little bit, like its nose was kind of up. Like I said, if you search it, like you can see like animations where they recreated it. Like
inside that engine's a big rotating turbine blade. Well, it's like a shaft with a bunch of turbines, bunch of fan blades getting smaller as they go, and there's fuel injectors in there pumping, and it's like the way the jet engine works, it's a trip. It's like a propeller in the front and a propeller in the back, and you're making an explosion or burning fuel in the middle, which pushes the damn blades in the back, which push the blades in the front, which sucks more fuel. And when they first kind of tried to figure out a jet engine, of course it didn't work. People said, no, that's impossible. That's like a perpetual motion machine. But if you have the mathematics right, it does work. It's basically kind of like a turbocharger, but you're burning fuel inside the turbocharger. So it's a lot like that. I think that's where they got the idea from. Putting a turbocharger on a World War I plane, and they said, you know what, we could probably get rid of the motor and just burn fuel in that. And it would suck air in the front and blow fucking fire out the back. And it would fuel itself. It's a cool idea, but it took a long time for them to figure it out. So maybe when the engine broke off the pylon, because it's got a big rotating mass in there, maybe it went crazy and went forward and flipped over the wing. Because there's gyroscopic effects.
Yeah, but I've seen the recreation that they did.
It makes sense that it comes off the plane and goes over the wing.
Yeah, it doesn't look weird like when you see it. Okay, like it looks pretty.
That didn't seem to make any sense. You'd think it would just fall away from the wing.
No, that's not what it did.
Okay.
Like I said, I've seen the recreation, and it's
all right. I'd have to see it so I know what you're talking about.
It was like that. Tom Sykes said just recently some female airport worker got sucked into the plane's engine. Now that's terrifying to see. Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, at least for that person to be quick, but it's like I don't really like to have to be. the person like seeing that either. Like that would be really horrible. Ugh. And it happens too, like because planes get that, like birds will fly, like get sucked into the engine too. Bird strike.
One of those aircraft carrier crews got sucked into a damn intake of a jet.
Yeah.
They got it on video. He lived though. It sucked him into the intake, but there's something there to stop him from going all the way in. It just pushed.
Well, yeah, you think there'd be like some kind of safety. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, everybody that walked by, oh shit.
Yeah, and the engine flamed out. Fucking shot a bunch of
chop you to pieces.
Shot a bunch of fire and smoke out the back of it, and it kind of stalled. And
How bad was he
and
fucked
they pulled
up?
him out.
How bad was he fucked up?
It didn't kill him.
Well, that's not what I asked. I said how bad did it fuck him up?
I don't think it didn't end his service. You know what I mean? He was probably okay in a couple of days.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, he had a good story to tell. He could get probably free drinks on that for the rest of his life. I got sucked into an engine, bitch.
Yeah.
And I lived to tell the tale.
They're running around and getting the thing ready for a fucking flight on the carrier deck, and the guy fucking spooled up the engine and sucked that guy right in there. You can see it. It's going to be on.
I've seen videos of that happening to people.
You can see it on YouTube.
But
yeah,
yikes!
Guy sucked into an engine, and then the fucking engine looked like it flamed out. Shot a lot of fire out of the back of it and black smoke, and it looked like it stalled.
Like I said, I don't think I've seen that one, but I have seen videos of that happening to people. And it's just like, well,
because he blocked the air intake.
Yeah,
he blocked all the air, and without air, it can't run.
Yeah, that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Zach says the only time I feel nervous when flying is when I'm on those flimsy feeling puddle jumper planes they have going between neighboring states and stuff. I've only been on those kind of planes, probably once or twice. When I was flying from, where was I flying from? Denver to Santa Fe, and that's like a little bitty plane. Like they do it and that was a new experience.
I was flying with my dad and his friend, who was a doctor, who owned this he was teaching my dad how to fly. My dad was getting his pilot's license, and flying in his Cessna. And you think that puddle jumper shit is fucking freaky? Flying in one of those Cessnas, it's like flying in a cheap VW Bug. The whole thing fucking flexes and rattles, and you're like looking, and everything's very lightweight. And we were up there doing stalls, practicing stalls. My dad's making stalls happen, and then getting out of the stall. It was like being in a roller coaster. It was fucking wild.
Did they have barf bags?
No, I liked it.
Yeah, but I'm saying if people that have like motion sickness.
No, it's dude's plane. It's like being in a guy's car,
Cars can't fall out of the sky, generally. Just saying.
There's no barf bags.
I was just asking.
Yeah, no. No.
Just asking.
They were in there laughing and joking around.
You just got to puke in your shirt, I guess. Just.
You don't get sick like that. I didn't.
Well, some people probably do.
I've never seen that happen to anybody. I've never seen anybody throw up in a bag, and I've never even seen an air sickness bag. Since I was
they always have them.
When I was a little kid, they had them, but I haven't seen one of those recently. I've never seen anybody use anything like that. It's nowhere near what seasickness was. I've been seasick.
Yeah, seasickness is worse.
Very different. Yeah,
that's worse. I will give you that.
It's
like that does actually make you
going up and down. That was out in the Gulf.
I don't get nauseated on airplanes or in cars, but I know some people do.
It takes hours for me to get seasick.
Because that usually has something to do with your inner ear. You know what I mean? Like people that get motion sickness. So I don't usually. I feel really stressed out on planes, but I don't get like.
Make a note.
But I have seen people throw up like when there's like turbulence and stuff. I have seen people using those barf bags. And that was just like a few years ago. So yeah. So the whole fucking engine comes off, and I guess like the tower saw it, and they obviously they call the plane, and they're like, on the radio, and they're like, hey, do you guys want to come back? You look like you're having kind of a problem there. What runway do you want? Like, if you want to come back. The pilot or nobody replied, like, on the radio. And the plane started to go up like it normally would. The only thing that was unusual at first was the left wing, like, dipped for a second. And then it straightened back out again. And then started climbing just like it normally would if it was taking off. Now, it did that for about 10 seconds. And then when it was about 300 feet off the ground, the plane started to bank to the left, like first very, very slightly and then very, very sharply. Now, at that point, the nose of the plane dipped down, and the airplane started to go back down toward the ground. And basically, the wings went vertical, and then like that, and then it just fucking hit the ground. The whole thing took about 31 seconds, like from when it took off. And here was the horrifying thing. So this particular airline, what did I say? It's American Airlines, right? Yeah. American Airlines had just installed what they thought would be a fun thing for the passengers. They put like, you know how they had like the little, movies that you could watch? Like in the 70s, I think it was kind of up here in the ceiling, like where you could watch little movies. Well, they had that, but they had, instead of a movie, they were showing you like what the pilot sees, like when he's taking off. So you could see like the runway rushing and stuff like that. So it's like when the shit was happening, like when the plane went up and then went like that and then like went back down toward the fucking ground, everybody in the back of the plane was watching it on the fucking screen and could see exactly. I'm like, oh boy, isn't that fun? Not surprisingly, not too long after this, they're like, maybe that's not such a good idea. Because even before, like when they said, oh, they thought it would be a fun thing, I'm like, why would that be a fun? I don't want to fucking see that. Jesus Christ. I want to pretend I'm on a bus or I'm just like on the ground. I don't even want to know that I'm in the fucking sky. So it's like much less wanting to see what the pilot sees. Fuck that shit. So I could have told them that before they even spent all the money to install the technology. But yeah, so that's the thing. And like I said, 31 seconds, it doesn't sound like a really long time, but when all of the horrified people are in the plane and the plane is going like that, and then, very quickly, like, going back toward the ground, I'm sure it probably felt like a fucking eternity.
There's a package at the door.
Okay. Yeah. Because they were all very aware of what was going on, which, that's the worst. Like I said, it probably just felt like forever, even though it was 31 seconds. This is, like, stressing me out. Can you tell? Just like here, just talking about it is stressing me out. And I've been like watching and like I've been reading about this all day and like watching documentaries about this all day, and it's like stressing me out. So the wingtip on the left side of the plane, basically hit the ground first, and then it just went into, and there was a massive explosion. And basically the fireball went about a half a mile and went into, there was this like abandoned hangar, which was where the old airport was. Like I think it was called Ravenswood Airport. And there was also like a mobile home park, like right near the airport. And the plane basically went kind of like in that direction. Like it actually wiped out some of the trailers. It didn't kill anybody in the trailer park. I think it fucked up 5 of the mobile homes. Maybe it was more than that. But 2 people on the ground, however, were killed. Not in the trailer park, but I think they worked in a garage. Either like just off site or on site of the airport. Like because when the plane hit the ground, like it mostly hit a field, but it hit like a bunch of like houses and stuff. So everybody that was on the plane, 271 people, all passengers, all crew, killed instantly. And they said that when they went to clean it all up or see what it's like, they said it was just like there was not really like a lot left of the plane. And they said you'd go there and you could just smell burning flesh. And they said there was just like blackened torsos and shit like that, just like laying. It's like it was horrible. And I was watching like another documentary about it earlier. I can't remember. It was like a British one. And the fucked up thing about it is that because they were kind of like talking about a few people that have been on the plane, because they talked to the survivors, the people's families and stuff. And the one guy, he had just had like he watched his girlfriend got on the plane. And then he went and watched the plane. He was like, oh, I'm going to go outside and watch the plane take off and see her go off to Los Angeles. And he saw the fucking plane crash. He's like, yeah. So he watched his fucking girlfriend die. Like on the fucking, I'm just like, oh my God, I can't fucking imagine. So they were like talking. I mean, it's been many years, but he still looked pretty like fucked up about it, which, yeah.
Well, it wasn't personalized, really. He didn't see her dying. He just saw the plane crash.
Right. But it's like, that.
Yeah, she was annihilated instantly. She just vaporized.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
But,
It happens.
Well, yeah, but like I said, that doesn't make it
No.
okay. Like, that doesn't make anybody feel any better about it.
Nothing's okay, though. It's just...
So, yeah. So, all his people got killed. Like I said, 2 people on the ground also killed, and it fucked up a bunch of people's houses because there was, like, a trailer park there where it landed.
Yeah, and they knocked out the trailer park.
Well, some of it. I think it was, like, 5 or 6 trailers got knocked out. I don't think any...
No?
No, I don't think anybody was home.
They got a check. They got a paycheck.
But, I mean, I would hope so.
Oh, yeah, the airline insurance fucking paid for all
Jesus
their
Christ. That's fucking horrifying.
shit. Yeah. Somebody's asking if my dad was in the Air Force or something. He goes, no. One of my dad's friends was a doctor who owned his own airplane. It was a Cessna. But he had a heart attack a couple of years before, so he was afraid to fly it by himself. So he took my dad with him. My dad wanted to get his pilot's license. So he was training my dad on how to fly the airplane. He would even land it. And my dad was studying up to get his little passenger or pilot's license. But he would land a plane and fly it. And because the guy was afraid he'd have a heart attack while he was flying. He wanted somebody with him that could land the plane. But my dad never did actually take the test, though. He lost interest. He learned how to fly it, and he goes, "Fuck it, I don't have an airplane, so why do I need the license?" You know. I think it was like several $1,000s to take the test. I think, too.
Yeah, probably.
As part of it's expensive.
Yeah.
And it was like a long process to take the test. And he's like, "Why am I actually taking this test? I'm flying an airplane already. I know how to do it." You know, and I don't own my own airplane, so why should I really get the test? I have the skill. If I get an airplane, then I'll fucking take the test. You know.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, it made
it's
more
like,
sense.
yeah,
to
what
do
are you
that.
gonna do if like you pay for it now? I don't
No,
have
you
any,
can't.
Like,
Yeah.
I can't use it. Really.
Yeah, you can't use it because you don't have an airplane. But he's already flying an airplane every time his friend goes up.
Yeah.
So you know.
Larry says
he didn't need an airplane.
Yeah.
That's just my dad playing around. You know. Really, what he wanted is an ultralight. You don't need a pilot's license for that. But he knew that if he got that ultralight, he'd be dead. Because those dudes fucking crash. They got a high mortality rate.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably better now, but...
I mean, well, yeah, most things are better now, but a lot of people had to die for them to, like, improve shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Larry said, also, haven't folks been sucked out of the plane midair in their seat and survived? A few have. I don't know of any cases particularly, but I do remember somewhere where that's happened and they lived. Well, and like I said, that one flight attendant, she got sucked out of the plane and she lived. But she wasn't in a seat, though. She just got sucked out. And she lived. And she fell all that way. She didn't have anything. I thought her fall got broken by some trees or some shit, though. Didn't it? Did she?
Which one?
The one that you were talking about earlier? The woman that fell out of the plane?
No, that's two different cases.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember the girl that fell into the tree. She lived, but broke her legs all up. They ended up I think she crawled her way to a road, and somebody drove by and they found her. I think that's how she stayed. The other one she hit a hill at the right angle and hit the downward slope. It slowed her down. That's how I remember that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Now we're going to have to do a show about people that fell out of planes and survived.
Because the hill has a slope. We're talking about a pretty steep hill. You know what I mean? If you hit that steep slope, it will slow you down. But you have forward motion, too. You're not falling straight down. So it was just chance, pure chance.
Yeah, that would probably never happen.
It would never happen more than once. She passed over the tip of a hill at the right speed to line up with the fucking slope. And hit it and slowed her down enough to where she got broken bones, but she lived. Now, if you had one of them squirrel suits, you could make that happen.
See, maybe next time I have to fly, I'll get one of those.
Yeah. I watched those dudes do that squirrel suit shit, and I was like, man, I could do that. You know, I think I'd like that. But there's no room for error. You've got to get that right your first attempt. You know what I mean? But I've seen those guys jump off of fucking mountains and go down through canyons and do stuff, and I was like, yeah, I can see, and they're doing it. I can see their helmet cam, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of like a motorcycle going fast, but at a slope, you know. I said I could do that, but I could see how they were controlling. I could see how they were controlling it, you know. There's a lot of body English and stuff. It's like I could do that. But, and they landed, basically. That's a trip, huh? They don't land it like an airplane. I guess they fold up at the end. I guess I don't remember how they landed it.
I don't remember either. I remember you showing me
It's a
that
squirrel
video,
suit, but they were.
But
with
yeah,
that, you
could
could make a connection with a slope, and slow yourself down in a controlled crash landing in a squirrel suit.
Like I said, maybe I will just like wear a parachute next time I have to like.
Yeah, parachute would be safer.
Next time that I have to fly in a plane, I'll just be like, well, I'm bringing a parachute because
Squirrel suit's lighter though.
I know, but
And what you could do is you could go on a ninja commando mission and reach down and then just activate
really gonna be
squirrel
doing
suit.
that.
You could have that shit fucking hooked up like a superhero and jump off a building and fucking control it and boogie your way down and try to find an object to hit to slow yourself down to take some of your speed away.
yeah. Well, you guys have fun doing it. I'm not doing that shit.
You got to bleed off some speed.
I'm not doing that shit.
Land on the roof of a car and bust all the windows out.
All right. So yeah. So obviously, a wreck of this magnitude is going to get people's attention. So this was obviously a countrywide story. And people started wondering about the DC-10 because there had been a couple of other kind of major crashes, also of DC-10s, like in the past few years. And people were starting to think, what the fuck? Are they not safe or what's the deal? And also people were wondering, they're like, look, yeah, you lost an engine and that's bad, like when the engine flew off. But technically, it should have been able to fly without that. You know what I mean? Because planes have more than one engine, and they're designed to fly basically on only one. So you can lose. I mean, your real big jumbo jets, I think they have 4 engines, and if you lose 3 engines, it can still fly.
Yeah.
So they didn't really know. They said really, even though this lost an entire engine, like as in it popped off the plane, it should have still been able to fly. So they couldn't like figure out what the problem was. So the NTSB did a really, really long investigation of this. And actually, there's actually 2 really good like British documentaries. They're different about how they figured out what had happened with this shit because it took them a while. But it's actually like really interesting. So what ended up happening was that there was an engine pylon because like you have the big engine right there like on the underside of the wing, and then there's a pylon. There's like a thing that I can't literally describe the shape of it, but it almost kind of looks like a bracket type thing that like holds it onto the wing, right? Now, what ended up happening was that about, I think it was 8 weeks prior to the crash, this particular plane had been, had some maintenance at the American Airlines facility in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now, the engine had just needed routine maintenance like you do. And something that they discovered during this investigation was that American Airlines, as well as some other airlines as well, had been cutting corners a little bit. So the thing about it is that when you were doing maintenance on the engine, you're supposed to kind of like take the whole assembly apart. And it was like a whole, I don't remember how many bolts it was, but it was like some ridiculous amount of bolts that you had to take out. And it took like forever. You know what I mean? So a lot of airlines, including American Airlines, had taken to removing the entire engine and pylon as a single unit. They were basically taking the whole thing off the wing in one piece, like with 3 or 4 bolts, instead of disassembling the whole thing like you were supposed to do, like the manufacturer recommended. Because they said it saved something like 200 man hours. Yeah. Like just taking it. So what they would do is they would like back a forklift underneath where the engine was and just have like the forklifts, and they would take the whole thing off and like pull it out and like work on it and then put it back on. And they weren't supposed to be doing that, but nobody knew it because, they were just trying to like save money, save time and shit.
That seems to make sense though. That's the kind of things that you normally would do.
Right, but that's, like I said, the manufacturer very clearly said in the manual, you have to take the whole thing off, like when you're doing this procedure.
They probably didn't give a reason why, either. Because mechanics on the ground, same thing in the military, mechanics on the ground read fucking factory shit and goes, what the fuck are they talking about? There's a better way to do that, That's what happened. There may have been a reason why don't take the whole fucking pylon off. But they should have stated it. Why? Because you know how mechanics are. They're going to go, oh, that's retarded. Just do it this way.
Well, in this case, it got almost 300 people killed, so good job.
Well, factory should have said, why don't do that?
Well, how about you just follow instructions?
No, it doesn't work. It does not work with mechanics.
Dudes do not follow instructions.
Nope.
That's their problem.
Because a mechanic that knows that thing inside and out, maybe he hasn't done all the fucking stress testing or anything, but a mechanic that knows the whole system inside and out is used to getting instructions from factories that are full of shit. They're just used to it. I've built a lot of engines and shit. They'll just tell you, like, no. But when it's something real important, usually it has to do with lawsuits. But if it's something real important, they'll tell you why not to do something. Do not do this, because what could happen is pressure could go up and you can blow your shit up. And then you go, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, don't do that.
Well, so the workaround that they had done of their own volition, like without permission, was, like I said, they were backing a forklift up, and they were lowering the engine onto it. Now, basically, the problem was you had to get the engine assembly, exactly straight, on this fucking forklift while it was being taken off. And that was a really, really difficult thing to be able to do because the person driving the forklift couldn't really see what they were doing. And it's like there was somebody back here kind of looking at it. It was just, very cobbled together. And obviously it wasn't really working all that well. Because if it was just a little bit off when they were taking it off or putting it back on, then there would be a crack in the pylon that you wouldn't necessarily be able to see. So basically, after this particular accident and they figured out what it was, they went and looked at a bunch of other DC-10s, not just American Airlines, but a bunch of other ones. And they figured out that a lot of other airlines had been cutting corners like that and doing this procedure in this particular way. And a lot of those pylons had fucking cracks in them. That's the pylon that holds the engine onto the wing.
Okay, that's why they don't want you to do that, because it wears out the pylon.
Yes, if there's a little crack in it, they're like, you can fly it a bunch of times, but every time you fly it, the crack might get a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger.
That's because they're torquing it to spec,
and then
it kind of wears out, and they go, look, man, I torqued it to spec, and it's not right, it's a little loose, so they tighten it up a little bit more each time, and over time it starts cracking shit, and the next thing. But you see, the thing is them bitches should have said that in the manual, because it's just human nature. They're gonna well, this is shorter. Why don't we just take the pylon off? Yeah, I know. I understand what they were thinking.
That's why.
Hey, man, when I was a fleet mechanic, okay, for state police at a state police level for a while. If a fucking car came in and it fucking had a rod knocking, we're not gonna rebuild that engine. We're just gonna pull that engine and throw another engine in it. Now, take that engine, put it on a stand to get that car back out on the street. Now, the blown engine, we'll put that on a stand and rebuild it later on and use that as a spare replacement engine for another car that comes in. Don't put the same engine back in that car. It takes too long. You know what I mean?
Well, sometimes it's easier to just start over.
Yeah, so you always have a rebuilt, ready-to-go engines ready on stands, Car comes in with a fucked up engine or just something like that engine doesn't sound right, just pull that engine, put the other engine in it, get it out. That's fucking 3 hours of work. The rebuild takes longer, and you got to source parts. So
well, see, I have always found, and I feel like this is true in a lot of different fields, not just mechanics, because I found it in my own field as well of graphic design. You get some shit from someone else that has made something. In my case, it's usually they've made a file or something. You don't know what program they use. You know what version of that they use. You don't know what anything they use. So you open it and it's a shit show. So basically, usually what I would do, it's much, much quicker to just remake the whole thing from scratch rather than try to figure out what the fuck they did to it. You know what I mean? Because it was always something wrong. So that's kind of the thing. I feel like a lot of times it's just easier to just be fuck it, and just start all over.
Yeah, that's what we would do. I mean, you can tell the difference between accessories, something that's bolted onto an engine, like alternator, or fucking fuel injector, or fucking steering pumps. You can fucking AC compressor. You can identify that. But if you look at that motor and you go, man, there's something wrong with that, you can just disconnect all that shit, pull the motor, put a different motor in it, fucking reconnect everything to it, send it out the door. Whole thing 3 hours. But there's 4 of us working. Then you worry about that engine later, because that's going to take a long time to rebuild that engine.
Yeah, well, you just get to it when you get to it.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
But
and
see,
you got 4 other rebuilt ones sitting on stands ready to go. You know what I mean? So no rush.
But yeah, see, the problem with this was that, honestly, the way that they were cutting corners, and like I said, it wasn't just American Airlines, but it was pretty much all the DC-10s, because it was, you know, this particular configuration that they had. And a lot of airlines had been using this cost-saving and labor-saving measure for the engine maintenance. And because of that, when they went back and like looked at a bunch of other DC-10s, they found pretty much the same problem. Yeah. They would go in there and see the pylon, there'd be a little crack. Yeah. So the thing about it was that it could basically go at any time.
Yeah.
Like, you never knew. Like, it just happened to happen this one time, and they caught it.
They didn't design them damn pylons robustly enough to be fucking removed and fucking... Or to be detached and reattached over and over again and wore them out. They should have used a different material. It should have been more robust. They should have had the damn Russians build it. Whenever the Russians built aircraft, they built it like a fucking tank. But, you know... They tried to make things as light as possible with an American aircraft, all the aluminum and magnesium and titanium and all that shit. But everything's kind of fragile. So I see what they're doing, but
like
it's
I said,
about contracts and big money. You know, it's cheaper to make it out of something harder and fucking steel. You know, fucking something real robust.
But like I said, if you watch one of these documentaries, because like there are a couple good ones that I watched earlier. That were both British, and they have like really good animation, like showing you pretty much exactly what happened, because they did figure out like what happened. Because the thing about it was that they did, even though the plane was like exploded when it hit the ground and there wasn't much of it left, they did actually find enough pieces of the pylon to like kind of sort out what had happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the horrifying thing was that when they went and checked the other shit, they're like, oh my god, like a lot of other mechanics are doing this same thing, which means this could have happened at any time. It just so happened that it happened on this day.
They're doing the same thing we were doing, engine swapping.
And the thing about it, too, was that they thought for a time, they were like, well, they weren't really sure. What ended up happening was, I think that the pilots weren't aware, because it should have been able to take off anyway, but I think they weren't really aware of what was going on, and they didn't do anything wrong. They did everything by the book, but I believe that the plane had stalled and they didn't realize that it had stalled. So they kind of did what they thought was the right thing, but they didn't know it was stalled, and so that was the wrong thing. So it ended up kind of like going around and it crashed. But it wasn't pilot error. It wasn't nothing like that, because they determined that like they didn't do anything wrong. It was just kind of like, you know, it shit happens kind of thing. So after this plane crashed into the fucking ground, and the scary thing, there's actually, if you search, it's probably like the first photo that comes up, crash of Flight 191, there were pictures, somebody that was at the airport, like, took a picture, and it was all over the fucking papers at the time, of the plane going like that, just like over the airport buildings, and you could see like a little bit of white smoke like coming out of the side, like where the engine was. And somebody also got pictures of the ensuing explosion, which was also pretty fucked up. So after this crash, probably not surprisingly, there were a bunch of ghost stories that came about in its wake.
You want another drink?
Yeah. Okay. Now, according to the local police, people who were driving through the area started to report weird things, like around where the plane had crashed. They would call in and say that they saw these really eerie, like bobbing white lights in the area, like in this field, like where the plane had crashed. And they weren't thinking it was ghosts. They thought that there's like some like fucking people in there. Ooh, maybe like it's weirdos like looking for souvenirs from the crash or some creepy shit like that. So they thought it was people with flashlights like over there. So they called the cops about it. It's like, hey, you want to go check that out? But they said every time the cops went to look and see, like no one was ever there, and like they never found any evidence that people had been at the site. You know what I mean? Even though people kept calling and reporting, seeing like all these weird lights and stuff. And then, even weirder than that, The people that lived in the mobile home park, because remember I said like the plane kind of crashed partway into it. I don't think it didn't crash into the mobile home park, but the debris like flew really far, and some of it like hit some of the trailers and stuff like that. So some of the people that lived in this mobile home park, they said basically just like a few hours after the plane crash, some of the people who lived in the trailer park started hearing like somebody knocking on their doors and windows, and then they would go and nobody was there. A lot of them reported their dogs would start barking at the field where the plane had crashed with no explanation. They would just sit there and like bark at the field all day, and they didn't know why. And this went on for a very long time, like several weeks, several months, like after the crash.
Okay, so they're saying that the ghosts of the people killed in the fucking plane crash are walking around, knocking on doors, seeking help. See, I can
well,
do
that's
the new
kind
voice.
of what. Yeah, that's kind of what they're
voiceovers for the
reporting.
Haunting now, you know?
Yeah.
In America, there is real evil. Yeah. In the plane crash, there are ghosts knocking on your door.
Can you imagine? Like, I would shit my pants if like that happened. If there was like a plane crash like right outside your door, literally, and then all of a sudden, like a few hours later, like somebody's knocking at your door, or like banging on your fucking window or some shit like that. Fuck that.
Now, what are the sources? Who are saying this is just?
Well, these reports are from the local police, because they said people started like calling in.
Weird. So the local police
about
said
it's like why like there's motherfuckers like knocking on. Well, the first thing that got reported.
Something to this. Hold on, there's something to this, people. If it was like a third party who jumped in years later saying, "Yeah, everybody started getting ghosts knocking on their door," I wouldn't believe in it. These are the cops saying people are calling them in.
Evidently.
At the time, evidently,
yeah,
right?
Evidently, that's from what I could determine.
So is this just a person claiming that the cops said
How
that
would I
people
know? I
call?
wasn't
Okay,
there.
we don't know.
I'm just saying.
We don't know.
I mean, we'll get into the whole
get
like
into that.
secondhand thing like in the Flight 401 case.
Okay. All right.
But this one, it does seem to be like most of the cops said, yeah, like people were reporting. Like I said, you weren't in here, but like the first thing people started reporting was people would drive by and they said, we're seeing these bobbing white lights over in the field. Like we think there's people over there with flashlights, like looking for souvenirs from the crash site, and that's kind of fucked up. So you might want to go check that out. And like the cops went to check it out, and then it's like there was nobody there. So that was one thing. But then like all of the mobile home people started calling and being like, hey, there's like people knocking on the door and there's nobody there, and shit like that. And then they also started, and apparently it started like ramping up, because then they would start reporting like that their doorknobs were like rattling, shit like that. They heard like footsteps like on their steps, like outside, like coming up to their doors. And a couple of residents reported, and I'm just saying what they reported, I don't know if this is true or not, but they reported, and this more than one person reported this, that they had heard knocking at their door and they opened it, and they said there was a guy standing there and he looked really worried, and he would either say that he had to get his luggage or he had to make his connecting flight. Like he would say that.
Yeah.
Like the guy was standing on their porch, and then he would like turn around and then kind of like disappear. So a couple people reported that too.
Damn.
Which is pretty creepy. I mean, if that really happened, you could see how it happened, because like, I don't believe in ghosts really, but it's just kind of like, if any place was haunted, it would be this place, because these people died like really quick. So it's just kind of like they wouldn't even probably know they were dead. You know what I'm saying?
I believe in the possibility of ghosts, maybe not in the way people would think of a ghost, like a spirit walking around, but maybe like more like echoes of the past, things that were recorded in the area to make a place bad, and you might be able to pick up on them. I mean, Pops, he's got his own show. He was an ex-SF guy who was placed in charge of the unit that was running Abu Ghraib prison after all that big scandal went down. His unit took over that, and he said that fucking prison was haunted. He saw, not just him, but a bunch of other people saw all kinds of shit in Abu Ghraib. Voices, weird bluish kind of glowing lights in the distance. Voices coming down corridors of the prison that had been walled off. And most people will never know what Saddam was doing to people in there, man. That was a fucking bad place. That was like on par with like Auschwitz. You know, torturing people, making people kill themselves to escape torture. Bad place, real bad. The whole place is just strewn with bones. If you dig around that area, there'd be human bones where they were burying people out in the yards. So no, there are bad places. You might see some things. Now, whether or not that ghost or that spirit or soul of that person is actually trapped there, I don't know. It might be more like that person's suffering kind of recorded into the damn fabric of the area. And if you're kind of attuned to it, or let's say you might have some psychic talent or your instinct or something, you might be able to access that this is a bad place, that bad things happened here, you know?
I mean, I kind of feel like that's why, I'm not saying I necessarily believe all the people that said that they saw, you know, people, like, because there was more, which I'll get to in a minute, but, you know, that they opened their door and saw a guy saying, I need to get my luggage or whatever, and then he disappeared. I mean, like I said, I don't really believe in ghosts, but if ghosts exist, I think it's more like you said, like a psychic recording type of situation. Yeah. So to me, that would make more sense, because this was a very traumatic, very quick event. And probably it left an impression, you know what I mean, of some kind, and maybe people could pick up on that. So, you know, I don't know if that's true. I'm just saying that sounds more likely than...
Yeah, we're animals. We have a lot of instincts, and we have a quantum consciousness. And animals do weird things also, you know. They can tell what direction it is. They get bad feelings about stuff. And people who are more attuned, I think, to the animal existence of the fight for life, for survival, between life and death, they tend to have feelings that come true, you know, and they see things and detect things that the average person wouldn't, because they're just, you know, working behind a laptop, which that's a different kind of work, but it's not an animal type job, you know. People say, well, that's just instinct. But what is instinct? You know, there's a lot of things about the mind and the unconscious that we don't understand yet, and what consciousness is. But his name is Terrence Pops. He's got his own show. I think it's called Redonkulous. And you can look on YouTube and on BitChute. He's on there too. I think he might have been kicked. No, he's not kicked off YouTube. He's still on there. He's an ex-SF guy. Did like fucking 30 years in a bunch of different kind of units. And he's got a bunch of ghost shows about Abu Ghraib prison. And I've heard his stories, man. I fucking believe him. I believe him. If a place is going to be bad, it's going to be a place like that. Other people that I've heard interviews when they went to go see Auschwitz and some of these death camps from World War II, they said it's got an eerie, fucking ominous feeling there.
Well, I can imagine.
Imagine all those people just murdered at a damn industrial scale. You know, that's going to be a bad place. You know, they're just, I don't know. That place is going to be creepy.
I'd be curious though, because I'm a skeptical person. As far as, like, I know a lot of horrible shit happened there. I'm talking about in regards to hauntings. It would be interesting if you took somebody there, and this might be impossible in this day and age, and they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Like, if you just took somebody there, and you took them to a bunch of other different control places, and see if they felt any different at that place. Like, somebody that didn't know what had happened there.
Yeah, but I'd like to take a wide spectrum of people.
Well, that's what I mean. Well, that's what you would usually do,
right,
like, in a scientific
each
study.
time. Right, yeah.
Because you would need a control group, and you would need somebody that didn't know. Because if you know what happened there, I mean, obviously pretty much everybody on fucking Earth knows what happened there. So it's just kind of like you're primed to be creeped out by that because it's horrible.
I got a feeling that more primal people would feel it. I think more sophisticated people wouldn't. Animals would probably feel it, and children would probably feel it. You know, because I remember when I was when I was a kid, I had those feelings that were a lot stronger, and they turned out to be true. You know, kids have real good feelings and instincts because that's all you're working on. You don't have experience to work on. You know, you defend yourself from fucking an evil world using.
But the thing about it is that instincts can be wrong too, and I think that sometimes that people also have a tendency to forget, like all the times they had an instinct of something that didn't amount to anything. You only remember the times that it did amount to something.
I've read a lot of stuff on this.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, instincts can be wrong, but over time they tend to be right.
No, I didn't say that. I'm just saying that you have to like take that into consideration.
Right. If you get a bad feeling about some dude, trust your feelings. Okay.
Well, because it's better to do it and like be wrong than just be like, oh, it's nothing, and then that dude ends up being Ted Bundy.
A lot of those victims that survived serial killers said, I had a bad feeling about that guy, but I didn't want to seem like I was, being unfair towards him, so I let him in the car. No. You had a bad feeling about that dude because you were right.
The thing about it is that, and maybe this is changing nowadays, but in general, like, women are usually like socialized to be, you don't want to be rude.
Right.
You don't want to be a bitch.
Yeah, fuck all that.
You don't want to be, and I kind of feel like you should absolutely not be afraid.
Yeah.
If you have a bad feeling about somebody, don't even worry about being rude. Being like, fuck you, dude, and run the fuck away.
Yep.
And it's like, I mean, because what's the worst that can happen? It's like, that guy being, you hurt his dude's feelings. Big deal.
Some dude will pick him up.
Better than you being dead.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Some dude will pick him up and he can get in the back of the car.
Yeah.
Back of the truck. Yeah.
It's fine. It's like not the worst thing ever to like be rude to somebody and have somebody think you're an asshole. It's fine. Just let people think you're an asshole. It's cool. Better than being dead. Just saying.
Every time I've run across a motherfucker says this motherfucker doesn't feel right. Jenny can attest over time at the club. Yeah, that was a bad dude. Fucking, you know exactly the one that I'm talking about on that one. Probably started with a J.
Yeah.
That dude. Fucking, there's a lot of that shit. There's just when somebody is up to no good, as long as you know people real well, you could get the feeling. There's something about the tone. The neediness in the fucking the like a false veneer. There's no way to describe it.
I mean, to be honest with you, like 85% of people that I meet make me uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Well, you get to where you can size people up. I'm very superficial. What they're wearing, this and that, fucking can. A lot of these guys who are mentalists, they're not mentalists, and these serial killers that can find people's weaknesses, they're not superhuman. They're just very, very superficial. Because you can tell a lot of people about somebody if you're very superficial. And in Western culture, they train people not to be superficial.
Well, the thing about it, though, is that most people are not complicated. I mean, you're not as complicated as you might think you are. Mm-hmm. Like, and I think, too, like, a lot of people are portraying a lot of things to the world that they're not aware of. Yeah. Like, the way that they move their body, the way that they... move their hands, the way they talk, the things they say. They're wearing. Yeah, like what they're wearing, like how they're carrying themselves. Yeah. Like that, and if you're observant, like you can pick up on a lot of that kind of stuff.
Dead giveaway people's shoes. From a person's shoes, you can tell a lot. What brand they're wearing, if they're not wearing certain brands, if their shoes are fucked up, if they're, you can tell a lot by shoes. You can tell what a person does for a living. Like
Hannibal Lecter had a whole thing about that in Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, yeah. Yep, it's true. Hannibal Lecter did mention that too. You and your cheap shoes.
Yeah. Your good suit and your cheap shoes.
Yeah. Right. Which he's spot on. That's how they do it.
And it's like I said, it's,
the shoes are the last thing somebody buys. Okay? So that's the giveaway about income. All right, and that's the giveaway about social status, which is why some low-income people really stress out about shoes. They'll kill you over a certain pair of fucking sneakers. But these are sneakers. They're spending that much money on sneakers. Real successful person is not going to worry about sneakers. Worry about Bally's or certain kind of boots. There are combat boots out there that are $500. Ain't that some shit? This is a motherfucker who's going to go into combat and get killed most likely, and he's going to buy a $500 pair of boots. They're great boots, but they're $500.
They're not $500 great, I can guarantee.
They're not $500 great, no. No.
In fact, I can think of very few things that are $500 great.
Best pair of boots I ever had was a Matterhorns, and they were fucking issued to me, and that's about a $250 pair of boots.
I could see that, but like I said, $500, man.
Yeah. That is like the Gucci of combat.
They would have to have like a parachute and a coffee maker and like toilet paper dispenser. I mean, there would all have to be all kind of shit in there for that to be worth $500.
Well, they're water.
Very few things are worth $500.
They've got Gore-Tex in them. They're waterproof. They're fucking
still not worth $500.
But I don't think they'd fucking last as much as you can run in them, and I don't think they're that good. But what it is
like
that
half my rent.
That's
not fucking worth it.
The guy who's buying this is either working for a company making a shit ton of money, or he's an armchair commando who wants to look like a dude who's making a shit ton of money in some kind of fucking military contracting type company or security company, Could be one of the two. But the thing is that the dude that's in that security company is also in a badass SUV with 20 other dudes, and fucking they're the bodyguards of some famous fucking politician or something. You know what I mean? So you don't really need the boots to fucking impress anybody, because you got other shit. You know, you got a fucking submachine gun in a briefcase. You got all kinds of shit.
Well, then you come across somebody like me that doesn't give a shit about any of that stuff. So you know. What I mean?
They're not. It's not for you. It's for
No,
other
I know,
guys
I'm
who are
just
in
saying.
the business.
I know,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying it's like I don't
Yeah.
give a shit about any of that. I just give a shit about if you're a creep or not.
Yeah.
Larry says, by the way, guys, I have 2 recommendations of excellent modern horrors for you. Barbarian 2022 and Censor 2021. I have seen both of those movies, and they are both fantastic.
I haven't seen either
and
one.
actually, I've done reviews on both of them as well. Censor was actually one of my favorite movies of 2021.
Jenny's told me to watch Barbarian. I didn't see it. I would like
You
it.
would probably like it.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
It's one of those movies where...
I either like it or hate it.
Yeah. You liked Malignant, right?
I don't think I ever saw that one.
Yeah, we saw it in the theater.
Which one was that?
That batshit crazy one about the woman with the thing with the on the back of her head. She was like walking backwards. You remember?
What?
You were we saw it in the theater.
We saw so many movies in the theater.
We saw it in the theater like not that
had
long
a
ago.
thing on the back of her head and she's walking backwards. No, I don't think I saw that.
Yeah, you did see it because you were sitting right fucking next to me. We were in the theater. We saw it in the theater.
I don't remember it.
We saw it in the theater. You really liked it. You really liked it.
What did she have on the back of her head?
Well, she didn't have anything. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like a whole like thing where her, yeah, she had like a thing on the back of her. So it was like a conjoined twin type of situation. Spoiler alert.
I don't remember that one.
And she was like the killer the whole time.
I
Yeah,
don't remember it.
yeah, we saw it. It wasn't even that long ago.
I don't remember.
It wasn't even that long ago. We saw it in the theater.
I don't remember that one.
But okay, well that doesn't work then because
Yeah.
you don't remember anything.
No.
I was gonna say you liked *Malignant* because you did at the time because I remember. You would probably like *Barbarian* as well.
Okay.
It's one of those ones that like it takes several like kind of like hard left turns.
Yeah.
But I was kind of into that.
All right.
I really liked it. And like I said, Censor, more people need to see that. That was a great fucking movie. I really liked that movie a lot. That was probably like one of my favorite movies of that year, if not my favorite. But Censor was good. What was the other one that I really liked? There was another one that came out in 2021 called Come True that I really liked also. I think that was 2021. And then there was another one that was either, I don't remember if it was 2021 or maybe it was 2019, called In Fabric. If you like really, really fucking weird ass surreal movies, that was fucking awesome. I really liked that. Thank you, Jeffy Art. I wonder what my cowboy boots say to people. Many of them can be in the, I guess it's like expensive.
Yeah.
But I'll wear the fuck out of them until they need to be resold 3 times.
Yeah. Some
Yeah.
things are fucking expensive. Well, it means you're a country fuck. Okay. It means that you dress to impress other country fucks. You may have some money, but that's that damn rural money. Now, if you're in the city wearing those fucking same expensive cowboy boots, that just means you're gay. Okay, you're a gay prostitute, and you need a G-string, and you put your ass up on top of that damn box in the middle of the club with those flashing lights on you, and you have another dude over there just fucking lubricating up your nipples with a cowboy hat on.
This is Tom's fantasy.
And chaps. No, I'm just saying.
Well, you clearly thought about it way more than I ever have.
I didn't think about it more. That was just instant image. That was an instant
sure.
image.
Jeffy Art said, "Well, I am gay." LOL.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah.
So Tom called it.
Yeah, you got it.
Tom Sykes says, Tom, if you liked that Intruder film with Dennis Quaid, which he did, he loved it,
Yeah.
you'd like Barbarian. That's what I was thinking. It's, like I said, I don't even want to go so far as say it's a love it or hate it, because I don't think it's that weird, but it's like, it does take a lot of hard left turns that maybe, but I liked that, because it went like a couple different directions, like, oh, okay, we're doing this now, all right. And it like went a couple different directions, and I really liked that, but some people didn't like that.
Yeah.
I liked that, though. I thought it was great.
Jeff, what you need to do is I know you got your chaps, right? Get your chaps and your cowboy hat and your gun belt and all that kind of shit with your cowboy boots, and make a video, and I'll send that in to my fucking my gay porn friend, and if it's good enough, he'll put that up in there on his fucking site.
Zach says my shoes are gay too.
The shoes are gay? Yeah.
Gay shoes.
Yeah, gay shoes, they're always expensive shoes, usually.
And Justice for Me said, I saw your Martyrs review. Yeah, that movie is still branded on my brain, right? It's like, I'm glad I watched it, but yeah, there's like stuff in there that I'm just like, well, never gonna get that out of my head. Great. It's one of those kind of movies. I'm kind of like, I don't know, I'm like maybe a masochist like that. I kind of feel the need. I was watching a video the other day by, what's that girl's channel's name? Possessed by Horror. And she was making a video about like shit she was never gonna watch because she's like, look, I got to a certain age where she's like, I know that like all these horror fans are like, oh, you have to see this and you have to see like all this extreme horror or you're not a real horror fan. She's like, fuck that, I don't want to watch any of this stuff. So like some of the stuff was like Antichrist, which was actually awesome. I really liked that movie and it didn't really bother me all that much. But some of the stuff I was like, and Cannibal Holocaust, which I get because there's a lot of animal cruelty in that. But I don't know, I kind of do feel the need to watch them. And Martyrs was one that it took me a really long time to watch because that turns up on every single fucking list of most disturbing horror movies ever made. And it is. I'm not saying it's not. But, I mean, I've seen worse, but it's pretty fucked up. It's pretty fucked up. So, I don't know. I've got to a point now where it's like you have to kind of be okay with that stuff like being in your head forever. And I guess I am because I keep watching the shit. You know what I mean? Keep watching the shit. Tom Sykes said Crocs are the gayest shoes. All right, so can I get back to the shit now?
Yeah,
or
you
what?
can go back. Yeah, they're in there. Jeff Yard, they're talking
Talking about gay shoes.
Talking about gay shoes, and dude, man, fucking just contact fucking Rob Halford. I fucking talked to Rob Halford over Instagram. Okay, he's the gay god, man, the gay leather daddy god.
You really talked to him on Instagram?
Yeah. I told him. I said,
or somebody that was pretending.
No. He's got his official. I told him. I said, Rob, man, I grew up listening to your shit, man, going all the way back to Sin After Sin. You call yourself metal god, dude. You're just fucking god. Your voice is fucking awesome, man. And he goes, well, thank you very much. You know, just that's all he said.
Ass kisser.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Ass kisser.
Yeah, Rob's looking all right, man. Fucking old man. He's fucking. Just follow him on fucking Instagram, man. He's fucking funny. He's a nice guy.
He always seemed like a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. Living out in Arizona out in the desert.
And Justice for Me says, the French, Spanish, South Koreans really take it to the extreme. The American movies are paling in comparison. Yeah, if you want to see really fucked up shit, yeah, watch those horror movies. And I like a lot of American horror movies too, but if you want some real fucked up shit, yeah, you probably need to watch that stuff. They go there, like American movies usually don't. I don't know why. But... particularly French. I don't know. French movies are pretty fucked up. Yeah, South Korean movies fucked up. Spanish movies fucked up too. I should probably do more Spanish movies. I've seen a lot, but I don't think I've reviewed that many. There's actually one. What the fuck was that one called that I really liked that I wanted to do? Fuck, man. Now I can't remember what it was. I saw it probably like a year ago, and I was like, oh, I got to rewatch that because I liked that a lot, and I wanted to like review it, but you know. All right, so where was I? Okay, so I was at the point where people were seeing a ghost of somebody standing on their porch saying that he had to get the luggage and then vanishing. So all this weird shit was going on in this field where this plane crashed. So a lot of the people, evidently, that lived in this trailer park were like, yeah, this is getting too weird for me, and they moved out. So like a lot of people did like move away. And so new people moved in. But the new people that moved in also started reporting like weird shit happening too. Now, one particular thing that is very popularly reported was apparently a guy, I think he was one of the guys that had like just moved there, like after one of the other people said fuck this and moved out. So he's out in the trailer park like walking his dog at night. And he's kind of approaching kind of near the area like where the flight 191 crashed. And he said that a guy, like a young man, walked up to him and said that he needed to make an emergency phone call. And so the guy's like looking at this case. He said it looked like a person, like it didn't look like, he wasn't like see-through or nothing like that. But he's just like, he just saw this dude and he just like looked at him and he kind of was like, that's really weird because he said he smelled like gasoline. And he said that he looked like he was smoldering. That's what he said. But he said otherwise, like, I guess he just looked like a normal dude. He didn't look ghostly or nothing. Now, so this guy thinks it's a guy. And he's just, like, asking for help. Like, he's asking for a phone or something. And he's like, well, maybe the guy was just, like, running around at night, and it's kind of cold out, and it's like maybe his body heat is like making making him steam or something, because it's like it looked like that. That's what he thought. But he turned around. He's like, oh, there's a phone over there, like a pay phone over there. And then when he turned back, the dude was gone. So that was one thing that somebody reported. Now, after that, like, I guess this guy had heard some stories about other people in the trailer park that had seen shit and like heard weird noises and stuff like coming from the crash site, but he had actually never believed in them until he actually saw this guy like just come up to him. But like I said, he just looked like a normal guy. Now, the weird thing about this too is that there were actually premonitions about this particular crash, apparently, before it even happened. So the most famous one was this guy named David Booth, and I saw like an interview with him on this one documentary. Now, he was not even from Chicago. He was from Cincinnati, because the crash happened in Chicago, in case I didn't mention that. So yeah, he was in Cincinnati, and for 10 nights in a row in 1979, he had the same nightmare. In this nightmare, he would see a plane going off the runway and then flip over and explode or like, catch on fire. Now, he had this dream a bunch of times, and he's like, and it wasn't like a dream, it was like a vision, and it was the same like every time. So he's like, I don't know if I should do this, but he's like, I don't know what else to do. So he called the FAA. So there is actually a record of this. Now, he's like, he called them up, and he's like, they're just going to laugh at me and like hang up probably, but he's like, I don't know what else to do, like, because it seems like I should probably do something about this. So he calls up. Now, to his surprise, actually, the guy at the FAA, who they also interviewed on this particular documentary that I saw, he's like, the guy called, he's like, he didn't sound like a kook or anything like that, and he was like, look, I know this is going to sound like really weird, but I've been having this same dream, and it's all this other good. He's like, and I'm sure it's American Airlines because I saw the logo like in my dream and everything, and he described what the plane looked like. So from the way that he described the plane, the guy at the FAA was like, well, that's either a DC-10 or a Boeing 727, like, because of the engine configurations and the tail and stuff like that. So basically, he was like, well, the FAA was like, well, the problem is that if you don't have like a location or a time or anything like that, it's like there's really not much actionable information, because it's like, we have thousands and thousands of flights like every day, like all around the world. And so there wouldn't be any way to kind of head that off, you know what I mean? Because it's like it could happen anywhere. And like I said, this guy wasn't even in Chicago. He was in, he was in Cincinnati. Now, he actually had this nightmare, I guess, for the last time, like on the night of May 24th, which was the night before the morning that it happened. And in the interview that I saw, he said when he woke up that morning, he somehow knew that he wasn't going to have the dream anymore. And I think he had a really strong feeling. So about an hour later, like an hour or two later, like after he got up, he went into work and he got a phone call about an hour later. And the guy, they said, yeah, turn on the TV. There it is. And that's like fucking, the thing about it was the FAA, because they have to do this in this every situation, I guess they investigated him because somebody calling up before some shit happens and saying, hey, this plane's going to crash or something, they're going to think, yeah, or you're a weirdo, or maybe you planted a bomb or some shit like that. But, it's pretty obvious he didn't do anything. And honestly, like the interview that I saw with him, he's still fucked up about it, because he's sitting there going, I wish I could have done something, but I didn't know what time it was taking off. I didn't know what city it was taking off. I didn't know where it was. But like the way that it happened was almost exactly the way that he had dreamed about. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which is pretty freaky when you think about it. But he's still like, yeah, he was like really busted up, and he was like crying and stuff, and he's like, I just wish I could have done something. But the guy from the FAA was like, there's nothing he could have done. There's thousands and thousands of flights. There's no way we could have narrowed that down. So, and it also later transpired, this is kind of interesting, that David Booth was not the only person who had some kind of, I don't know if I'd call this necessarily a premonition, but it's kind of like that. So, Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman.
Yeah. Haven't heard that name in a long time.
Yeah.
I love that show.
I did too, actually.
Yeah, it was a good show.
Too, actually.
$6 million. It was the sequel to the $6 Million Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gender swap $6 Million Man.
No. Now every time I move, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
That was an MST sketch.
Yeah, you go slow and you go.
He gave
look
both,
how fast I'm going.
He gave both the bots $6 Million Man noises. So every time they moved, it went no. But he got annoyed in like 2 seconds and took it back out again.
You
the bots were
had to grow up in the
excited,
70s, people.
We're old.
Yeah.
We're getting to that point now where it's just kind of like you know how like when your grandparents used to like say some crazy shit like about when they were and you're like, what the fuck are you even talking about? We're getting
I think we got mostly Gen X in here anyway. Like Mango Badger says that fucking Dio is God. Dio is not really God. Dio is like God's main sorcerer. Okay. No, Ronnie James Dio is fucking awesome too.
Oh, okay. Tom's got the whole hierarchy figured out.
Yeah, there's a whole hierarchy. At the top is Rob Halford. You know, just by virtue of fucking excessive masculinity and leather daddiness, he's gonna be at the top. No, but I always liked Judas Priest. I just thought they were overall the best metal band. Not all their albums were fucking really good, but they were better than Iron Maiden. If Iron Maiden over time went bad, the last really good Iron Maiden album was probably like Somewhere in Time. But there were some bad fucking Judas Priest albums, but most of them were good. I'd say fucking Judas Priest ran that show.
Tom Sykes said, I've had a precognitive dream before of a shooting at a park that didn't happen until a month later. But in the dream, it took place the next street over, which was freaky. Yeah, that's kind of like I don't know if we've ever done a show about like precognitive dreams, but I remember a lot of people saying that they dreamed about, one that I remember like in particular because I think I was in Wales and I remember like hearing a lot about this, was the Aberfan disaster, like where all the coal slurry like slid off the mountain and like went over the school and like suffocated all the people, all the kids. And they said that a lot of people had a premonition about that, like a few nights before it happened. So I'm always kind of like interested in that kind of thing. I don't know if I necessarily believe in it or if it's just like coincidence or anything. I don't think I've ever had anything like that happen, especially. But I mean, I think you probably had some stuff like that too. Have you ever had any precognitive dreams?
Yeah, dreaming true on a regular. Yeah.
Well, what in particular? Like, have you dreamed and then it came true later?
Day before the 9/11 happened.
Oh yeah, a lot of people said they had that too.
Day before 9/11 happened, I had a dream that somebody was in a damn mail jet, like a DC-10 type mail jet, and crashed it into a building, but I don't remember what the building was. It wasn't a skyscraper building, it was something flat, like a mall, like a shopping mall. So close. Next day, 9/11 happened.
That's pretty weird.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think a lot of people said they had premonitions about that.
When I was a kid, I would have dreams of what my parents were going to tell me. And the next day they would tell me some shit. And it was just like off the wall stuff. The weirdest thing that was ever like that before, and I told this story before, I was at home. I think I stayed in from school that day. This is when I was in California. I was on Jackson Street in Carson. Right outside was when I went to Dominguez Elementary School. I think I stayed home from school that day. And all of a sudden I got startled and heard the phone ring. And ran to the phone and picked up the phone and heard two people talking. And it sounded like my Aunt Ruthie and somebody else talking. And I heard a conversation between two people, a man and a woman. And I hadn't seen my Aunt Ruthie in a long time. And then I was going, hello, 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 and they wouldn't answer. And then finally it stopped. They stopped talking. And I put the phone down. Went back to the television. A few minutes later, as I was standing in front of the television, somebody pulled up in the driveway. It was Aunt Ruthie. And I said, I just heard you on the telephone. And she was like, yeah. Because I was a little kid. She didn't know what I was talking about. She goes, get in the car with us. We'll get something to eat. We're hungry. We'll wait for your mom to come back home. I was like, all right. They were from Escondido. It was a long way away. Over an hour. So we go to Spire's restaurant. And on the way there, I hear her and her new husband talking, and they had the same conversation I heard on the phone. And I said, I heard you guys talking about this over the phone. And they just laughed and blew me off and kept on talking. Because I was like six,
how weird though that
6 or 7.
it's so weird. That's why I kind of think there's really no intentionality about it. I think it's just kind of like a glitch in the Matrix type situation, because it's like whenever people have premonitions, like I said, like the guy David Booth, if he had the premonition about Flight 191 crashing beforehand, and he kept having it, like he had it 10 nights in a row according to him. So it's like, obviously, if some greater intelligence was trying to tell him, hey, do something about this, it's like, well, hey, you have to give me more information than that. And he wasn't even in he wasn't even in the same city. He wasn't even, so it just seemed like a random.
Here's the weird thing. Remember when I told you I heard them talking about me on the phone? Or not talking about me, but they did mention me. And coming, I think, if I remember correctly. But I heard them have that conversation. When I was saying hello, 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 they weren't answering. And the voices just faded away, like the volume got turned down low. And when I had my hand on the phone, I was waiting for it to be like a busy signal or a dial tone or something, and it was nothing. And I just had this real ominous feeling of like fear came over me. So I just hung up the phone. Like, that was weird. What was that?
But were they weren't talking about anything like upsetting or anything, were they?
Normal shit. But the voices faded away over the phone. And I'm like, I'm just holding a dead phone in my hand. I don't think that phone ever rang.
Yeah.
I think I hallucinated that phone rang and had a premonition while I was on the phone with the phone next to my ear. I don't think there was anything.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, I just think I was getting the download. But it was weird. It was like I was a little kid, you know?
Yeah. I mean, pretty random.
Yeah, just random shit.
And like I said, it wasn't even important shit.
No, but I was sensing the future. Do animals do this?
Maybe so. Like I said, maybe some people can tune it, but like I said, it doesn't really seem like there's any intentionality, because anybody that's ever reported they had precognitive shit, sometimes it's about important things, but it's never specific enough to prevent shit, it seems like.
It was important to me because it was based on the emotion. You know what I'm talking about? It was just an emotion, like, yeah, they're here. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'm just saying that it wasn't like
so
anything.
What was important was just subjective. It would be important to a child.
Yeah.
You know. That's the force, man.
All right, so where was I? All right, so Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman. She was actually supposed to be on this flight, Flight 191, on May 25th, which crashed and killed everyone aboard. Now, according to her, she was actually waiting for the plane, but started feeling really, really sick.
Yeah.
And the closer it got to like the time to get on the plane, she's like, man, I just feel like shit. And she's like, she thought that when she got on the plane, she was going to like, throw up or get really sick on it. So she's like, fuck this. I'm just going to like, go some other time. So she just went back home, and she said as soon as she left the airport, she felt a lot better. Mm-hmm. So she came out later and said that. Also, I dug this up as well. Some also believe that the flight number itself, 191, is unlucky just on its own. For example, let's talk a little bit about this case, because this isn't necessarily anything to do with ghosts, but this is some crazy shit. And I remember when this happened too, because this was only in 2012. So 2012, there was the case of JetBlue Airways, Flight 191. And that had to be diverted to Amarillo, Texas, because the captain, whose name was Clayton Osborne, he got locked out of the cockpit by the first officer, his name was Jason Dowd, and was also subdued by the passenger. Like, the passengers, like, tackled him and, like, tied him up with fucking seatbelts and shit like that, because he started acting like a crazy person. So, that's another thing that you have to, like, fucking think about when you're flying in a plane, that your pilot might just suddenly like flip his fucking shit like this dude did. So he just was apparently like normal up until the time. And then on this particular day, he gets on the flight, and then he just starts ranting. He starts ranting about 9/11. He starts ranting about terrorists. He had some kind of thing. And basically what ended up happening was that the first officer, he's like, the captain, they're in the cockpit doing their, normal flight shit, and he starts getting a little bit alarmed when the captain starts saying stuff like, we need to take a leap of faith, and we're not going to Vegas, because that's where the flight was supposed to go. I can't be responsible when this plane crashes. Like, he was saying shit like that, which, yeah, no, I don't think that's gonna happen, no. So, and then he started talking about Jesus and terrorists, and there's a bomb on this plane, and blah-de-blah. So the first officer, fucking hero, he's basically like, hey, why don't you go into the passenger compartment? I don't know exactly what he said to him. You just go into the passenger compartment for a second. Just, like, step out the fucking door there for a second, and then, like, once the captain left the cockpit and went into the passenger thing, he slams the door, and he, like, changed the security code so the dude couldn't get back in. And then basically, like, once the passengers figured out what was going on, they fucking piled on the dude and just, like, tied him up, like, with seatbelts and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, he was just... he flipped his shit. So, basically, they had to divert the plane. Like I said, the plane was actually going to Las Vegas, but they were, understandably, they were like, yeah, let's land at the nearest airport, which was Amarillo, Texas. So, when the plane landed, they, rightfully so, arrested Osmond and arrested him with interference with the flight crew. So, he had actually worked for JetBlue for 12 years. And like I said... the dude was totally normal, apparently, like, up to this point. But he was just, like, on the plane, and he just flipped the fuck out and started, like, ranting about Jesus and how there's a bomb on the plane and shit. So, and his first officer was like, yeah, no, not having that. I'm locking you out of the fucking cockpit. So they did. And then also all the passengers tackled him. So I thought that was pretty cool, too. But, yeah.
Maybe he dropped acid.
I don't really know what his fucking problem was, man. Yeah. But yeah, he was getting to a thing where it's like, we're not gonna go to Vegas, and he's like, he was gonna crash the plane on purpose or some shit, because some pilots have done that. So that's another thing you gotta fucking worry about. Another reason I don't want to fly anymore. So basically he got arrested. They put him on trial, and they found that he was a fucking Looney Tunes. So they put him essentially.
Well, my sir, are Looney Tunes.
Well, yeah, that's the medical term.
Yeah, it's like a medical term.
But basically, they're like, all right, well, he didn't get any jail time because of that, because they're like, reason of insanity. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they actually put him in a mental health facility in North Carolina. But later on, they did actually free him. But they said, well, obviously, he's not allowed to fly planes anymore. And they're like, well, you have to keep on with your treatment. You have to, stay on your meds. And, they had to, like, monitor him, basically, because he was, like, flipping the fuck out. Interestingly, though, 3 years later after this incident, like, the plane landed, like I said, they were diverted. It was fine. Like, the first officer, hero. You know what I mean? They got the plane landed. Everyone was fine. But this was also flight 191. So you can see why people were, like, thinking maybe that number was cursed. So basically, though, the captain, 3 years after this shit happens, because I was like, this is fucking ballsy, he sued JetBlue for $15 million. The basis of his lawsuit was that the airline didn't ensure that he was fit to fly. That's why he sued.
Yeah. Y'all didn't check me out before you let me fly. So
it's your fault.
That's a good grift, man.
That I'm crazy. Well, he got the idea, apparently, because remember, like, back in 2015, there was that one, that Germanwings Flight 9525, and that the co-pilot actually deliberately crashed the plane and killed everybody on board. So I guess that's where he got the idea from. So he's like, oh, well, I'm going to sue, too, and, like, say, well, you guys should have known that I was nuts and shouldn't have even let me on the plane. It's all your fault. So, yeah, I don't think that worked out. There was, like, a settlement.
Oh, yeah, cha-ching.
They didn't really divulge the...
Probably a lot.
So I don't know if, like, somebody got paid or I don't know.
Probably a lot. They probably gave him a lot.
But I was like, what kind of bullshit fucking lawsuit is that?
Well, an attorney probably told him to do that.
Fucking bullshit.
Says, listen, what you should do is you should come in from this angle. You'll fucking win all kinds of money, and we'll split it. Like, oh, okay, yeah, let's do that. Cha-ching.
Crazy. But yeah.
If you go to war, always have fucking lawyers with you. Okay.
And I looked on the Wikipedia page for this thing, and I was like, well, what was the problem. Like, what caused him to flip out? Because apparently he'd been working for JetBlue for 12 years and nobody suspected anything was weird. They don't know. They said maybe he just, like, sudden onset psychotic disorder.
Yeah.
He had some kind of, like, maybe he had a stroke, or maybe he was on some kind of new meds that were reacting weird or something. He said that he thought it was maybe a seizure, but I don't know, man.
Maybe.
Like I said, that
could have been anything.
Yeah, but
Blood on the brain.
That's what I mean.
Might
That's
have been
like
a stroke that fucking did.
That's fucking terrifying.
Weird shit, yeah.
Like the dude that's flying your fucking plane. Yeah, I'll stay on the ground, thanks.
Acid flashback.
Maybe. Shit. That's pretty scary, though, that just, like, some normal-ass motherfucker that's been flying planes for 12 years, and then all of a sudden it's like, I'm gonna fucking crash this bitch into the ground.
Maybe it was just a whole retirement plan. You know what I mean? Where, like, if I do this and that, I'll have a good lawsuit. Then I won't have to work anymore.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe he was just tired of working, and he just wanted to flame out in the most, like, dramatic way possible.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I'm just gonna go crazy.
I'm gonna go crazy.
Because he didn't actually
them.
do anything.
Right.
He just started saying crazy shit. And his first officer was like, yeah, get the fuck out of my cockpit right now.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, that's not funny.
Y'all must understand the power and the power of fucking corruption. All right. A person can think about some shit and go, yeah, I'm going to throw this shit sideways and make all kinds of money. I'm sick of coming to work. It's out there.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't work. I mean, I kind of feel
It's
like...
a gamble.
I mean, you only hear about the times when it does work.
Yeah, it's
So
a
I
gamble.
kind of feel like it probably only works probably about 5% of the
You
time.
have to be a genius.
The rest of the time, everybody's be like, knock that shit off.
Right.
What are you doing? That's not gonna work. I gotta feel like most of the time it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mango says, yep, this is why I do not fly. Nutter pilots and nutter passengers. Yeah, pretty much.
Nah, I've
Pretty
flown many
much.
times. There's no problems.
Well, there's no problems until there is a problem. That's what I mean. You never know.
Probably
That's what I
safer to
mean. Like
fly on
all
an
of
airplane and ride a motorcycle. I ride.
Well, it
motorcycles all the
is,
time, yeah.
but at least if you're on a motorcycle, at least you're on the fucking ground. Like I said, I don't like the idea of being, and I don't like the idea of being like trapped in this little tube in the sky with a bunch of fucking crazy people. You know what I mean? I don't like that idea. And you can't escape. It's not like you can just jump out the window.
The sky isn't the problem. The ground's a problem.
Well, duh.
Okay,
That's what I'm
you're
saying.
On a motorcycle,
The relationship between
you're on
the
the
sky
ground,
and the
man.
ground.
You're
is the
on the
problem.
ground, moving around. That's where all the danger is.
But I would rather that because I can at least.
People are afraid of falling.
Yeah, I don't like. That's what I mean. That's the
Yeah.
idea that I don't like that idea.
Yeah.
I don't like that idea. And I also just don't like. I don't like the idea of not having control. Of being like, because like I said, you're in this tube in the sky and you can't do a fucking thing. Like if something goes wrong, you're like, you can't do anything. You can't do anything to fix it. You can't help in any way. You can't do anything. You're just kind of like fucked. So I don't like that.
I understand. I mean, I have that natural fear of falling, you know. But we used to fly in choppers with the doors open and look outside, fucking going fucking near to 200 miles an hour, fucking spit out the side, fucking doing dip and shit. And it's all cool. It doesn't bother me at all. I could hang my feet over the fucking side of the deck on a UH-1 or a UH-60. It didn't matter. I didn't have the feeling of being up high in the same way it was compared to, say, climbing up an extremely tall ladder like at an aerosol school or fucking hanging my head off of a fucking top of a 20-story building. It's very different because you have perspective. And that perspective will fuck with your mind. Like I see a dude fucking walking a tightrope between two buildings and I get vertigo. But I never had that sensation in a helicopter or in an aircraft. It's just a different game, you know. I have no problem jumping out of a fucking helicopter or an airplane. As long as I had a parachute on, it would just be normal to me. I've never done it, but I would just go, yeah, okay, and just step out. But I couldn't jump off the top of a building. Don't ask me why. It's just because there's perspective there, I guess. Yeah, you haven't been in that situation, so I guess you can't really relate to it.
I know I'm not as cool as you.
Well, no, you can't relate to that?
Yes,
There's
I can
something
relate
about
to
being
that.
on the edge of a building looking down.
I know.
start like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
I know. I hate that.
But I could look out the door of a helicopter, be 5 times higher, and it's just like, nah,
Well, it's
nothing.
not. I mean,
It's nothing. You know,
It's not exactly the same thing. Like, it's still high, but it's not exactly the same thing.
I'd be even higher in a chopper. but you just don't have the perspective. Things just look far away.
The weird thing about it is like what Zach was saying earlier about being on the little puddle jumpers. For some reason, I think that being on the smaller plane, the plane that I was on, like because I would fly from Denver to Santa Fe, that plane, I think it was an eight passenger. I want to say it was 8 passenger. So it was pretty small. I think that even though it rattled around a lot, that didn't bother me as much as being in a big one. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Because I guess the illusion that it was more like I was in a car, maybe. So I could maybe pretend easier. I don't know. I don't know what it was. Because I thought it would bother me more. But once I got on there, I'm like, well, this is bothering me. Like, it still bothered me, but it bothered me significantly less than being like on a big jet.
That's funny.
Which is dumb because, like, being on a big jet is way more dangerous. And, like, intellectually, or being on a big jet is a lot safer, is what I meant, than, like, being on a small plane. Like, and being in a small plane is still pretty safe, but in the, the taxonomy of, like, safety, usually the big jumbo jets are the safest, but I don't know. I don't like that feeling. And I don't like that feeling of just being trapped in there, and it just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just, like, a weird... I've never liked it. Like I said, I know I'm sorry I'm not cool and stuff like that, but it's
I'm just
I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like heights of any kind, and I especially don't like that. And I think the thing I don't like about it, and I think the thing a lot of people don't like about airline travel is the lack of control. When you're driving a car, obviously driving a car is much more dangerous than flying in a plane. I mean, that's just statistically that is obviously very true. And I know that. But driving a car, I have control. I'm on the ground. It's like if something goes wrong, I can at least try to avoid it, or I could try to do something to fix it. When I'm in a plane, I can't do jack shit, and I don't really like that feeling.
I don't have a sense of... this is where me and Jenny are going to differ. I don't have a sensation of danger or falling when I'm involved in any kind of aircraft. I only have it when I'm on top of something like a building or a really tall ladder that's like 3 or 4 stories tall. Like those guys that climb up those ladders on the side of water towers to go up there and change light bulbs on top of antennas. That would...
Yeah, I'd be like, that light's going to stay out. I'm not getting
because you're
there.
climbing up that damn ladder and you're looking down going, oh, shit. I'd probably be trembling halfway up. But I have no problem hanging out of the side of it.
I don't think there's any amount of money you could pay me to get me to do that.
And I definitely couldn't fucking tightrope walk across 2 buildings.
Way.
Even if it was fucking 6 feet wide.
You could say you were going to give me $1 billion, and I don't think I would do it.
Even if it was 6 feet wide, I'm not sure I could walk across that. Like top of like between the 2 World Trade Centers when they were standing. I don't think I could do it.
No, I don't think I could either. Like I said, you could probably come and say, I'll give you $1 billion, and I'd be like, I don't think I could.
Yeah. There's something about forward motion and being inside of an aircraft that kind of alleviates my... And there's no perspective. There isn't a wall to look down.
Yeah.
I'm not standing on anything that's solid. I'm inside of something.
I think, too, my problem might be that I'm too good at imagining worst-case scenarios.
I don't know.
Maybe that's what it is. Because I'm just like, because immediately when I get on a plane, I immediately think of all of the horrible things that have gone wrong, all of the plane crashes that I've heard about, all of the movies that I've seen that have that in it.
I don't even think about it.
Like that, well, I can't, that's just how my brain works. I can't stop it.
I don't even think about it.
I can't stop it. So maybe that's why. Because I'm thinking about how, because, and I was thinking this too, I thought this today while I was reading about Flight 191, and I was thinking to myself, all those people that when I got on the plane were probably thinking the same fucking, and I think this every single time I get on a flight. There's like, everybody's like, it's going to be okay. Like, these flights go like thousands of times a day and it's totally fine and blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, all those people were probably thinking that too. And now they're all dead.
Yeah, your perspective is wonky though. You know what I mean? Fucking, no.
But it's true.
The chances of you being on one of those flights is very
That's
very
probably
slim.
what they thought too.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing with the lottery.
That's what they thought too.
It's the same thing with all the lottery. You have all these people, well, I'm going to get this lottery ticket. There's no way I could fucking ever win the lottery. It would be like winning the lottery,
I know. But like I said, that you tell me that like I don't know. I do know that. But then my brain, the next thing it says is that, yeah, that's what all those people thought too. And now they're all dead. So I can't help think that. That's just the way my brain works. That's when I like flying. You know what I mean? Yeah, so this motherfucker, okay, so he fucking sued, and like I said, there was a settlement. They didn't really release that to the public. So like I was saying, there was some other weird shit that happened with other Flight 191s, not American Airlines, but other airlines flights. So there was also a Delta Airlines Flight 191, which actually crashed. It was caused by wind shear, actually. And that crashed on landing at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport in 1985. And that killed 137 people. And that included one dude who was on the ground. So because Delta had a Flight 191 that crashed and American Airlines had a Flight 191 that crashed, neither one, and I don't know if this is still true to this day, like maybe, but they don't have that flight number anymore, because that's usually what they do, because it's like a superstitious thing, is that if a flight crashes, then that airline will retire that flight number, just because, like I said, people are going to be superstitious about it. Nobody wants to be on the same. It doesn't make any sense. It's not, it's not scientifically valid. But even I, who knows that that's like bullshit and superstition, I still would be like, I don't know if I want to get on a flight like numbered that. Like, didn't we already? Although maybe the odds would be better, because it's like, well, one that was numbered this already crashed, so maybe the odds are better. Like I said, it doesn't make any sense. It's not scientifically valid. But yeah, I get why, because it's like, you don't want to be on the same fucking number. Now, because Flight 191 had crashed, the American Airlines one, and as I mentioned before, like, because a few other DC-10s had crashed, there was actually one in 1972, which was also DC-10, and that was also an American Airlines flight. That was Flight 96. And that crashed because of its cargo doors. And then there was also a Turkish Airlines flight that happened in 1974 that was also a DC-10. That was Flight 981, and that crashed for, like, similar reasons. So because of that, like, the DC-10s were... A lot of the crashes had been caused by the same kind of, like, slipshod maintenance procedure that they had found in the 191 thing. So they actually did... do something about it, and they went back and said, look, you can't do that shit anymore, where you just like pull the fucking engine and the pylon down on the forklift and do that kind of crap, because obviously we're gonna have planes crashing all over the place.
It's called an engine swap.
That's, well, you know what I mean.
Can't do an engine swap.
So they were having all of that kind of stuff. Well, no, they said that if you're gonna do engine maintenance, you have to take the whole assembly apart instead of taking the whole thing off in one piece. Like, you weren't supposed to take the whole thing off in one piece. Yes, it's easier. Yes, it takes like less time, but that's how you get crashes, and we don't want crashes. So they basically said you can't do that anymore. And American Airlines got fined like $500,000, which in those days money, which is about $1.5 million like nowadays, for, so they got fined for that because of, it was their maintenance. It wasn't, anybody that was on the plane. And also for a time, about 2 weeks after the accident, they actually grounded all DC-10s for a little while, like until they could figure out like what the problem was. So they did that for a little while. And I think it was like maybe like a month or something. They kept all the DC-10s on the ground. So they did that. Now in October, actually it was Halloween of 1979, another DC-10 that was flying as Western Airlines Flight 2605 crashed in Mexico City, coming from Los Angeles, like Los Angeles to Mexico City. Now that was actually that wasn't due to any like maintenance issues or mechanical issues. That was like low visibility, and the pilots had become confused and were trying to land on a closed runway. So that was what had caused that. So that was more like pilot error and like, atmospheric conditions. But you also had a DC-10 that was a Air New Zealand flight. That was 901, and that was November 28th, 1979. And that crashed and killed 257 people. That hit a mountain. And that was kind of mostly human error and environmental error as well. Now, interestingly, there was another DC-10 crash 10 years after that, United Airlines Flight 232. But it actually ended up that this crash actually got some of their reputation back. Because for a while, like, nobody wanted to fly on DC-10s because it seemed like they were crashing every fucking week. Now, this particular crash, the aircraft lost an engine and all the flight controls and crash landed in a huge fucking explosion, which a news crew caught on video. The crash killed 112 people, but 184 people survived. So in some ways, people were like, oh, well, that's fucked up that like a bunch of people died and the fucking shit fell out of the sky and exploded. But 184 people lived, so maybe DC-10s aren't so bad after all, which is, I don't know, damning with faint praise, I guess. But it's kind of like that. But so, yeah, so after this particular accident or like series of accidents, orders for DC-10s were like way down after that. And they basically only made them for 10 more years. And during those 10 years, the biggest orderers of DC-10s were cargo planes like FedEx and the Air Force. So basically they were passenger airlines for a little while, but then they discontinued them as passenger airlines in 1988. So there's that. And it was largely because of all the crashes. You know what I mean?
Probably time to take a break.
You think? Yeah, I got to pee as well.
Okay.
Now,
go ahead and put through the commercials.
Do you know where they are?
I can't see. I don't have my
so you don't even have your glasses?
I don't have my glasses on.
All right.
Okay, hold on.
All right, so we're going to do some commercials, and then when we come
Be back
back...
in a second. We're going to do a break.
When we come back, we're going to talk about Flight 401.
Yeah.
The ghosts of Flight 401.
And for those of you who are watching this recorded, we have that damn new feature. What's it called?
Super thanks.
Super thanks. We are accepting super thanks. It's kind of like a super chat, but it's a late super chat. Super thanks. I'm gonna make a fucking shirt called Super Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Yeah, super thanks, baby. I like that. I like that term. That's a good idea.
Well, it's because their other stuff is called Super Chat, and then they have another thing that's called Super something else. I can't remember what the other feature is.
YouTube's trying to up its game. You know what I mean? It needs more revenue. So they make a lot of money off of Super Chats because they get some of that money. And people make a lot of videos, so they're missing out on the shit that's already recorded. You might as well be able to give a super chat on the shit that's recorded, too. So that's a good idea, because a lot of our fans are in other time zones.
Yeah.
So they can't watch us live. So I like that. The super thanks I thought was a great idea.
Yeah.
But, okay, go ahead.
And they have memberships, too, and I'm thinking about, which is kind of like a similar setup to Patreon.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of thinking about maybe doing that, too, just like...
And we're also looking for patrons on Patreon.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and do the commercials, and we'll be back with you guys in a second.
We'll be back in just a minute. All right, we're back once again. Hopefully you had a good break there.
Talking about what we're going to eat when the show's over.
Well, yeah, everybody knows that.
I got some fresh biscuit dough ready. I can make biscuits at any time. I got that country gravy already made. I can make biscuits and gravy.
That's another shirt you need. It's like, I can make biscuits at any time.
Make biscuits at any fucking time. You never know when biscuits are going to happen.
When biscuits could appear.
Yeah, biscuits could happen with anything. With fucking butter and jelly on them. They could have gravy on them. They could have a sausage in there. Sausage with cheese. And
You just keep like rubbing all your facial hair.
Yeah, I'm being sinister.
Oh, okay.
I'm being sinister.
Sinister.
Well, I got hair, so I'm going to fuck with it. Okay.
Ian England said, any of y'all ever watch Vampire's Kiss? Yes, we actually reviewed it. How long? It wasn't that long ago. I feel
that
like
was
it
the
was
one with
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage. Yeah, it was good. Good flick.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we reviewed it just like
he's got a new vampire movie coming out. Got to see that one.
Renfield,
yeah.
with Nicholas Hoult from who's Nux from Fury Road.
Yeah.
Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, they fucked us over on Mad Max. Should have been a new one by now.
Well, it takes a long time.
Or a Furiosa, maybe. We'll see. I'm gonna see if there's anything coming.
I'd be down for a Furiosa.
Yeah, I'd like to see a Furiosa movie.
But
Tom Hardy as Max, he was fucking great. I thought he was good. I thought he was real good.
I mean, they could do. I kind of wish they'd do another movie with both of them. To be honest,
Yeah.
I really liked their synergy.
Yeah, you could probably bring them together somehow. Like they've been
you could
separated
do
for
it.
a long time.
Well, like I said, at the end of the movie, she was just kind of like, "Hey, man." He's like, "Yeah, hey, man." Like they could. She's still
he
around.
left though. He's antisocial. You know. He
I
don't like
know,
to
but
lose
it's like
nobody.
it's not like he could go super far.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like they'd still be
The
like
Citadel
in the
had all
area.
the water and all the food.
Right. That's what I mean. So I just kind of feel like
Yeah.
that they could do that easy.
Yeah.
Just saying. I'm just saying I really liked Mad Max Fury Road, and I wouldn't mind seeing like more stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said it could.
No shit.
Please don't.
Is it back?
I mean, I haven't like my light hasn't gone.
It looks like
Okay.
it's coming back. Okay.
Maybe it's just fucking with. Well, I'm worried because we lost our internet earlier today,
Yeah.
like this morning. Like it was probably like 11ish.
Yeah, the community said that it was gonna be out today.
Oh, okay. So
That's-
I didn't
yeah.
get that memo.
Yeah.
So I was just like, what the fuck? So it was
Right.
out like half an hour, and I was just like, Jesus
yeah.
Christ, I couldn't. Maybe longer.
Longer, a couple hours.
Yeah, because we kind of live a little bit out in the sticks. So we have what's it called? Optical tel.
Yeah.
That's like the Wi-Fi for this
There's a
neighborhood.
lot of construction around here because it's expanding. We're on the edge of Orlando.
Well, yeah. I mean,
This
we're
is now the edge.
We're about but I mean, we're about 20-ish, 28 miles from downtown Orlando.
Yeah.
But
Which
we're
is-
like suburbs of Orlando, but rural suburbs.
Rural suburbs, right. Where we used to live, we used to be the rural suburbs. Now that's fucking suburbs.
Yeah.
You know, it's expanding. So now we're at where we were 10 years ago.
But I mean, our Wi-Fi is usually pretty good. But
Yeah.
yeah, for some reason, like it went out today. But we heard like because I'm on the the community board for Black Bear Reserve where we live, and they're just like, yeah, they told us it was going to be out today because they were doing some work or whatever. But it was out for like half an hour, and I was freaking out because I didn't get that memo until like later. So yeah. So let's talk about Flight 401. Here's this other one. So actually, this happened a little bit earlier than the other one that we talked about. This was in 1972, December 29th. This was, man, I was only a few months old. So this was a different airline. This was Eastern, which they're not even around anymore, are they? It's not even Eastern Airlines. I think they're just called Eastern.
Yeah, I don't know.
Eastern Flight 401.
I haven't really been paying attention lately.
I haven't either, but like I said, I don't even know which ones, and I haven't flown anywhere for a really long time, so I couldn't tell you what airlines are still around and not. So this flight was going from New York to Miami. So it took off from JFK Airport at 9:20 p.m. There were 176 people on board. That's 163 passengers and 13 crew members. Now, the plane was not a DC-10 this time. It was actually a Lockheed L-1011, which is called the Whisperliner because it's, like, super quiet. So, 11:30 p.m., they start making their descent into Miami International Airport. 11:42, so 12 minutes after the captain says, "Hey, we're starting to make our descent into Miami," the plane crashed into the Everglades at 225 miles per hour.
That's a wrap.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.
So
the speed wouldn't get you. The alligators would.
Yeah, well, and the fucked up thing about this is, like, some people, like, more people survived in this than died. I mean, a lot of people died. I'm not saying that, but, like, more people survived. And some of the people that survived the crash drowned.
Yeah.
So, great. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you also have to worry
swim,
about
people.
Alligators, too. Well, I mean, even if you know how to swim. If you're
injured, you can't swim.
Even if you know how to swim, you can still drown.
Right.
I mean,
if you're injured,
don't be victim blaming and shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Depends on the situation. If you're all busted up, you can't, for broken arms and legs, you can't swim.
That's what I mean. Kind of hard to swim when all of your limbs are broken.
Yeah.
Or when you're unconscious.
Right.
You know, so just saying. Like I said, don't blame the fucking victim. So yeah. Now, apparently this flight had been, like, pretty uneventful. But I guess when the flight was coming in, like, doing its approach to Miami, the flight crew had started to kind of become preoccupied by a faulty warning light. I see it. It's yellow.
Just ignore that shit.
Well, I can't ignore it if it's... Okay.
If it goes out, it's back.
All right. What the fuck, man? Some bullshit. This is what happens when you live out in the middle of nowhere. All right. Where was I? Okay, and also the flight engineer, whose name was Don Repo, as in Repo Man. So they got a warning light that said that the landing gear wasn't working correctly, which, you know, that's bad when you're trying to land the plane. So the pilot tells the co-pilot, "Hey, why don't you put the plane on autopilot?" And then they sent the flight engineer down to check and see what the fuck was going on with the landing gear. Like, you know, to check it manually. Now, what ended up happening, they found out after the accident, was that the pilot had accidentally nudged the control yoke, maybe with his knee or something, like, because when he turned around to talk to the co-pilot or whatever, like, he must have hit it and not noticed. And what happened with this was that the autopilot mode was set to follow whatever pitch the pilot set with the yoke. So if you hit it into a particular position without realizing it, then that's what the plane would do, which, you know, is probably not the best idea. So, and the thing about it was that because they didn't realize, because it was dark out, it was night, and they didn't realize because they were so worried about, it's like, hey, is this landing gear, like, working right? And they're down there trying to check it. And so they didn't realize that they were going down, like, much faster and in the wrong place. So they didn't really figure out that they were crashing until it was, like, too late to fix it, which is fucked up. Because apparently, like, the co-pilot kind of turned around and, like, saw the thing, you know, the indicator of their altitude, and was like, oh shit, but, you know, there really wasn't anything you could do about it at that point. Oh, another thing, I forgot to mention this. I don't know why this wasn't in my notes. I forgot to mention this when we were talking about the previous case about Flight 191. You know, the cockpit voice recorder? Yeah. They did recover that, but they said the weird thing about that, and this is the last flight we're talking about, they said literally the only thing that was on there was the co-pilot going, damn. That's it. Yeah. That's it. Like, so they really didn't have hardly any indication. And that, like, I don't know why that freaked me out so much, but that freaked me out a lot. And like I said, it was just, like, the way he said it, like, damn. And then the fucking plane exploded. So they really didn't have much indication that, like, some fucked up
They
shit
saw
was going
something on those dials.
But they couldn't do anything about it. It was just, like, happened too quick. So yeah, I can't believe I forgot to mention that because I'm pretty sure that was the flight 191. I forgot to mention that was the only thing that was on the voice recorder. Well, because they were happy that they recovered it because they're like, oh my, maybe this will tell us like before they'd figured out like what had gone wrong.
You saw something,
and then it's like literally all that was on there was the guy going, damn, and that was it. And I'm just like, oh my god, that's horrible. Ugh. Okay, so
it would have made sense had you been there.
Well, yeah, I know that, but it's like it's still creepy.
Yeah.
It's still creepy.
It's always creepy. All that shit's always creepy. It's just it's situational. He saw something. They saw something on the fucking instruments. That was fucking weird as shit.
Maybe he looked in the rear view mirror and saw the engine going, skipping
could
down
be
the
they
fucking
saw fire
runway
or something. He went, damn, and that's it.
Yeah. That was all she wrote.
Yeah.
But yeah. So all right. So back to flight 401. So yeah, they didn't actually realize that they were descending into the fucking swamp until it was kind of too late to do anything about it. So the plane crashes into the Everglades. Now, because, I guess, luckily for some of the people on the plane, they crashed into the water, and it wasn't like a real severe angle. So a bunch of people did survive. Now, unfortunately, that did not include the pilot, the co-pilot, or the flight engineer, all of whom died in the crash. So 75 people survived, but 101 people on the plane died, including, as I mentioned, the captain, the flight engineer, and I think the co-pilot actually maybe lived, but the pilot and the flight engineer died.
He's lucky because I always heard that if you're up in the nose, you're a goner. Statistically.
I always heard, statistically it's better to be toward the
tail,
back of the plane.
Yeah. They say the people in the tail have the fucking best survival rates. But that's just, maybe it's just statistics or...
Well, yeah, I guess because if a plane's going to hit the earth, like probably the front of it usually hits first.
Which slows everything else down, maybe.
Right, so that kind of makes sense if you think about it.
Or when it hits, that's nosed up because they're trying to slow down. So you have further to fall after the explosion. I don't fucking know. I don't know.
But I have heard that. It's like that it's better to be toward the back of the plane.
Yeah, towards the back.
Don't be over one of the wings. That's probably not good either.
Nose or wing, probably,
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's probably better just to be back. And I know people complain, they're like, I don't want to be in the back. That's like by the bathrooms, but still. That's win-win. Bathroom is close, and if you get in a crash, you maybe won't die. You probably still will, but you maybe won't. I don't know. But yeah. So, 75 people survived. 101 people died. Now, the ghost stories about Flight 401, notably, didn't start until about 4 years later. We'll get into this. What happened was that in 1976, 4 years after the plane crashed, a guy named John G. Fuller published a book called The Ghost of Flight 401. Now, in this book, he basically had all of these interviews and stuff like that with flight crews and like supposedly surviving passengers and things like that. And the story that they were all telling was that they were seeing apparitions of the Captain Loft, and the flight engineer, Repo, showing up on board other Eastern Airlines planes. Now, apparently, so how this all started. Now, a later plane, which was also an L1011, which is like the same model as the plane that crashed, and it was also Eastern Airlines. So this particular plane was supposedly on a flight to Mexico City, like after the other one had crashed. One of the flight attendants said that they looked at the window of an oven in the galley of the plane and saw a man's face looking back at her in the oven window.
Man, that was in that damn made-for-television movie.
Well, they made it from this book.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that from a kid. I saw that as a kid. It scared the shit out of me.
A lot of people were scared that, like,
really scared the shit out of me. I remember that. Yeah.
I wanted to watch it, but I didn't.
We gotta try to find that.
I didn't have time to watch it before because I was thinking, oh, maybe I should watch that, but like I ran out of time.
Wouldn't mind watching that.
I've seen it before, but it was like a long time ago.
Yeah, me too.
Because I remember that too. When I read it, I was like, oh, I remember like
I remember that scene.
Yeah. Like seeing the dude's face, like
dude's face in the microwave,
in the oven,
the microwave oven reflection. She opens it or something, and you see it, and she's like, "Whoa, yeah."
What the fuck? Yeah, it's like a mirror. Yeah.
Didn't he have a hat on or something,
Well, it's like it was supposed to be like the captain.
The captain,
like,
yeah.
Like I think the guy she saw was like the captain.
Yeah.
Well, was she the captain or the flight engineer?
Yeah,
I can't
that's
remember.
right.
But she saw somebody like in there. So she sees the dude looking at her, and then she runs and gets another flight attendant. It's like, hey, come look at this shit.
Yeah.
So apparently that person came and said, oh my god, there's like a dude like
she
in the
saw
oven.
It too? The other one?
Apparently, that's the story.
Okay.
So they both saw this dude, and then they go up to the flight deck and they call the flight engineer, like, come down here and look at this shit. And then so that guy comes down and he looks at the face, and he not only like sees the face also, but he's like, that's Don Repo. That's the flight engineer that died on Flight 401. Okay. Yeah. So he apparently like recognized him because it had been in the thing. Now apparently this image of Don Repo, if that's who it was, in the oven door said, watch out for fire on this airplane, and then kind of winked out of existence. Damn. Right? He's like warning about some shit. Now, once this plane allegedly arrived in Mexico City, I'm not saying that it allegedly arrived in Mexico City. I'm sure it did. I'm just saying that allegedly this is what happened. It was found out that one of the 3 engines was damaged and would have to be replaced. Now, they actually had a repair crew come in, and they were going to fly it back for repairs, like with no passengers in it, right? But when they took off, one of the 2 engines that remained flamed out, and they had to make an emergency landing on just one engine. So, which was kind of like a big deal. Now, so they're like, okay, well, maybe the ghost was like warning them about this because of like a fire or something like that. Now, at this point, like the guy that wrote the book said that mysteriously, the cockpit voice recorder was also, when they did the repair on this particular plane, which wasn't the same plane that crashed, obviously, because that one was like pretty much obliterated. But when they did the repair work on it, they replaced the cockpit voice recorder, which they thought was weird because I don't think there was anything wrong with the voice recorder. Now, so he starts looking into it, the author did, and interviewed like a bunch of airline employees about it. And according to the flight crew, the people that he interviewed, Don Repo had actually appeared in the cockpit during this, when this thing was happening, when they were going to take the plane to be repaired and like the engine flamed out and everything. He had come over the voice recorder and told them what to do. That was their story. Okay? So that's why they replaced the cop. I was like, why would you replace it? It's like you have a helpful ghost like telling you like how to fix shit. Like if you can, why would you want to get rid of that? I don't know. But yeah. Now, so as time went on, both pilots and flight attendants reported seeing, usually it was Don Repo, like the flight engineer from the flight that crashed. I
gotta say something, Jenny. This case is better than the first case. This one here's tripping
Well,
me
because
out.
I think this one is probably like 100% more bullshit than the first one.
Yeah. This is more cynical. It's more like more fucking movie-like here, man. We gotta see. I want to see this made-for-TV movie again.
We can watch it later if you want, if you can find it. It's probably somebody put it on YouTube because
Probably
I think
on
it was
YouTube.
like a TV movie.
Yeah, it's a TV movie. I remember it as a kid.
I'm pretty sure it was
70s.
Yeah, it was 76, 70.
Yeah, my dad had to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a big
My
like
dad says, "Oh, I gotta see this shit."
appointment TV
Yeah,
kind of situation.
I remember watching it and I was
Sure.
like going, "Oh, yeah, whoa." I couldn't understand. I couldn't follow it all. You know, I was a little kid, but I remembered that scene with the captain's face in the reflection
The guy
of
in the oven.
in the microwave
Being like,
oven.
hey, what's up?
Yeah, like whoa.
Scared. Shit's gonna get fucking.
Yeah, and I remember it's kind of like blue and spooky.
Now we're gonna have to find it because now I'm kind of curious. Like I said, I was
Yeah.
thinking about watching it before, but I just ran out of time. Because I was watching like other.
You got the name of it?
Yeah.
Okay, what's it
It's
called?
just called The Ghost of Flight 401.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's easy. It's like based on the book.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like I said, I was gonna watch it, but I was like watching a bunch of other documentaries and stuff about, because I got all fascinated about Flight 191 and like you know, the actual mechanical difficulties, and I got like all off into that. But you know what I mean. All right, so yeah, so apparently a bunch of them saw the ghost of Don Repo. Usually Don Repo. Sometimes they would see the captain. like Bob Loft, sometimes too. But usually they would see the flight engineer. And usually when he would turn up, he would give them like some kind of little warning or, hey, well, may want to check this out, or like some shit's about to go sideways or some shit like that. So what ended up happening, or how the story goes, is that all of the flights, because it was several different flights, I believe it was the same airline or it was the same kind of plane. And what they were able to establish was that every time that somebody on the plane saw one of these apparitions, allegedly, was a plane that had parts that had supposedly been salvaged from the wreckage of Flight 401. Like, which is crazy to me. Like, you think it's like they're digging through the swamp and it's like, hey, we could use this piece of, like, we'll put it on this other plane. I don't know if they would really do that, but, like, you know. So, yeah, so that was what they determined. They're like, well, we had pieces that were left over from this crash, and they used them in other planes because this was apparently, like, a new plane, and they didn't have enough parts or something like that. So every time they would put one of the pieces from this crash plane into another plane, people would start seeing the dead people. Not any of the passengers, I don't think, but usually either the flight engineer or the pilot, like, on these other planes. So, two of the main parts that they had apparently salvaged from the crash were an oven, like I said, probably why they saw the face in that, and the elevator, because that particular plane, the L1011, had an elevator that went down to the galley, which was like downstairs, like in the belly of the plane. So apparently those two parts in particular got installed on another of the same model plane, and that was where Repo would usually like turn up. Now, so this book was made into a TV movie, as we mentioned, called The Ghost of Flight 401.
They're saying that starred Shatner?
Wait.
Starred the mighty Shatner?
Does it?
Oh, man. If that's true, fucking hell yeah, we're going to see that shit.
You got to find that shit right now. Because now I kind of want to watch it. Now I'm kind of in the mood. We can get drunker and watch it.
And I'll make us something to eat.
Yeah, we'll make some food and we'll get drunker and we'll watch a plane crash movie, like a ghosty plane crash movie.
Okay, let me look this shit up. Now he might be giving me a bum. Who said that? Mango or Murder?
Mango said.
Mango said that. It's probably true then.
Mango said that.
Ghost of what?
The Ghost of Flight 401.
Yeah. Okay. It's a
Even though it says ghost like singular.
1978 film.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's it.
Ernest Borgnine, Kim Basinger.
Wow! Oh yeah, Kim
Howard
Kim
Hesseman, Russell Hott.
God damn, that's star-studded.
Robert.
Howard
Elias.
Hesseman was in WKRP.
Yeah, I don't see any fucking. The Shat's not in that shit, dude.
Mega said Shatner was in a haunted airplane movie. Okay, yeah, I think that's another one that you're thinking of because I've seen that. What the fuck was the name of that one? I just watched it.
Tom Hanks is in it. Harks. Oh, Tom Harks.
Tom Hanks is in it.
Ted Hart.
He was probably like fucking 5 when that was made.
There's a lot of
No, he wasn't 5 when that was made. He was probably like a teenager.
Tina Chan, Gary Lockwood.
Oh, I know who Gary Lockwood is. He was in like some Roger Corman movies, I think.
Okay.
Why do I know that?
We'll check it out.
That's what happens when you're an MST dork. You just you see all these fucking horrible Roger Corman movies and remember all the actors.
Let me see if that shit's on.
I'm pretty sure Gary Lockwood was in one of those terrible sword and sorcery movies that was on MST.
It's on YouTube.
I figured it would.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
I figured it would be.
Yeah.
What was the one that William Shatner was in, though? I feel like I just saw it not too long ago.
Yeah.
Like a year or two ago. Yeah, it was one that was on a plane. What the fuck was it? Was it Haunted Plane? Yeah, I guess it was Haunted Plane.
It's on YouTube in the original aspect ratio, all fucked up looking.
Okay, well, it's not like it's fucking... No one's going to do a widescreen version of that.
Yeah. It's all right. No, I want to see it.
All right. We'll watch that later.
We'll check it out.
We'll watch that after the show. We'll talk about it on the sidetrack show, like what we thought about it. But yeah, so that's the movie. Now, apparently in the book, the author, John Fuller, He wrote that the airline was trying to like cover all this shit up, right? He said that every time one of the crew or somebody like that would report that they had seen one of the ghosts on a flight, and they'd put it in the logbook. I don't know why you do that, but maybe you would. Then the logbook would mysteriously be replaced with a blank logbook. That was one thing that he said in his book. He also talked about this mechanic who... See, here's another thing where I kind of feel like maybe this whole book is bullshit, because he didn't name a lot of the people, because the excuse he gave was, well, these people don't want to get fired, or they don't want their reputation ruined, or blah, blah, blah. So nobody used their real names. You know what I mean? Which, I don't know. That seems a little suspicious to me. So he just said there's a mechanic who wouldn't give his name, and he said that he found a whole stock room of equipment, which was all in like perfect working order, that Eastern had ordered to be pulled out of various airplanes. And these were all the pieces that had apparently been salvaged from the flight that had crashed, Flight 401. And that included the oven and the elevator, famously, but a bunch of other pieces too.
Now, Mango, if you can find the name of that Shatner fucking haunted
what
airplane,
is that? I
go
just
find
saw
that shit
that.
for us.
I just saw it.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't just see it,
sounds
but I
familiar.
saw it like recently.
Sounds familiar.
Because I remember it being like an all-star cast, and I think
Yeah.
it was also a TV movie.
Like a disaster movie.
Because
back
remember,
when they were big in the 70s.
Well, remember, like a while back, we went on kind of like a disaster movie kick,
Poseidon Adventure,
and
and
I feel like we watched it around that time, or maybe a
Yeah.
little bit before that time.
Avalanche.
Avalanche was on the new MST,
Yeah,
and that was
Avalanche.
probably, I think that was my favorite episode of the new
Yeah.
MST, because what a fucking, Mia Farrow was in that.
Yeah.
That was like fucking hilarious. That was like a skiing thing.
Y'all had to be old enough to understand the fucking 1970s fucking disaster movie. And they were on television, too.
Man, everybody just wanted disasters.
They were all-star
Plane
fucking
crashes
movies.
and building fire, like Towering Inferno. That was another one.
Oh, I don't think we saw that one.
We haven't seen that recently. We
Yeah.
did watch Poseidon Adventure,
Okay.
and we watched what was the other one we watched?
The whole reason why you watch those, or the boomers watched them, those were boomer movies, okay?
Oh yeah, big time.
They watched them because they wanted to see the stars they grew up with under pressure, okay? And fucking fighting for survival.
How is Ernest
And
Borgnine going to deal with this situation?
Yeah, how would Ernest Borgnine
We wanna know.
deal with this? Yeah. And they're all dying, and a lot of them die as heroes, and some of them die as cowards. You know, just
Well,
they were cool. They were cool.
I
There's
liked
something
them.
kind of cool to the disaster flick.
And I mean, at least like some actors that were, I hate to use
Yeah.
the word has-beens because that's like a terrible
No, but
dismissive term.
on the
But these
downward
were,
slope.
yeah, they were like on the downward slope of their career. They were getting a little bit older, and it's like they were getting a paycheck, and it's like they got to like have
They
fun
give a
and
send
like
off on the damn disaster
and like
flick.
be a hero, like saving like some children from a
Yeah.
flood or some shit like that.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. There was something weirdly kind of like comforting about disaster flicks movies, kind of like watching a dead mall video. Like an old dead mall video.
I think, you know what I think
Yeah.
it is? I think it's because you're watching it being like, well, at least I'm not in that situation. Like, my
Yeah.
life sucks, but it could be so much worse.
Yeah. But there's something kind of normal about them.
I guess.
There's something kind of normal about them. Yeah.
I always kind of, like I said, I always kind of approached them that way. It's like, because no matter how much your life sucks, it's like, well, at least you're not like in a cruise ship that's sinking and you have to fucking...
Yeah. And it's upside down, and you got to get to the top.
Right.
You got to get
Because
to
I'm
the
like,
top,
wow,
and
those
you're
people
up
are
to the-
really fucked.
Yeah.
What am I complaining about?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that kind of situation. So I think that's why a lot of people like them.
They're fast paced though, and they're not realistic. They're just fun.
Yeah.
Fun suspense movies.
Yeah. I think we were thinking about watching Towering Inferno, but I think we had to pay.
Maybe that's what it was.
And then, because Amazon
Which means it's probably
Prime,
one of the better ones.
because Amazon Prime has a bunch of them, but
That-
we were just like going through and watching all the free ones.
That means it's one of the better ones if you have to pay.
It usually is, because
Yeah.
it's like, I mean,
'Cause I remember that being one of the big ones.
well,
Towering
not,
Inferno.
I mean, not always,
They
because
named
it's like,
a fucking song after it. Bee Gees did. Disco Inferno. Disco Inferno is about...
Disco Inferno wasn't the Bee Gees?
Who is it did that shit? Who did that? But Disco Inferno was about Towering Inferno. It was a Towering Inferno reboot. That's what it was. Who did Disco Inferno?
I don't remember, but it sure wasn't.
I thought it'd be. That's just
it doesn't even sound like the Bee Gees.
No, I just remembered it though.
Mango put a link there. He said this is it.
What's that?
He sent a link to IMDb. I can't click on it because it'll fuck up my shit. But.
Oh, that's Shatner's fucking ghost movie. Ghost.
That's what I mean. I just saw it like not that long ago. I just couldn't remember like the name of it.
Yeah, and they're talking about Poseidon. Yeah,
because we went through so many fucking disaster movies. But I think and we went through disaster movies, and then I had like an eco horror kind of thing. Because I did a video over my Scare Salon where I talked about what I do: Kingdom of the Spiders, Food of the Gods, and Empire of the Ants. That's right. Because those were the ones I need to do. Orca too. I feel like because that was another one I was really into when I was a kid. That was another big thing in the 70s was eco horror. It was disasters and eco horror. That was like the 70s horror in a nutshell. Like nature's coming to get you, and also cruise ships and buildings and planes are coming to get you.
Yeah. Okay.
What's it called?
No, I'm looking for it, but I gotta re-go. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So this book that he published about the ghosts of Flight 401, and he basically said in there, most of it is like interviews with ostensibly like people that worked for the company or had seen the ghost or something like that.
It's called Horror at 37,000 Feet.
That's right. Under what circumstances?
1973.
Yeah, under what circumstances did we watch that? We must have just like come across, because I know we've saw that like really recently.
I don't think so.
Mango said Orca is a great film. I know. I always really liked Orca. And that's another one that I kind of like want to rewatch, because that's another one that I remember from. Well, because, I'm a kid and I grew up in Central Florida, and we used to go, we couldn't afford to go far, like on vacation. So usually we would go to Disney or we go to SeaWorld. And so, I grew up like watching Shamu and shit like that. So I was like, ooh, Shamu gone bad. I'm down.
Horror at 37,000 Feet is also on YouTube.
Yeah, I thought it was.
For free, yeah.
I mean, we might be able to find a better copy of it somewhere else too, like because I always like to check that first. But YouTube is like the last
resort. Usually it's fucking got bad resolution. It's not. It's like right off of television.
That's what I'm saying.
It hasn't been remastered.
So it's like you should usually check like the other, just in case. Like check Tubi, check Amazon Prime. You never know, because somebody might
have a remastered version.
Right. If they don't, then you can watch it on YouTube. But you know what I mean. So this guy writes this book, and like I said, all of the people in it, like, they were like, well, we don't really want to get in trouble. We don't want any, like, reprisals in case we get canned or something like that. So it's like they wouldn't really give them their real names, which, like I said, seems a little suspicious. Also, you have to be a little bit suspicious because the guy that wrote this book, John G. Fuller, he had also, up until the time he wrote Ghost of Flight 401, he usually wrote UFO books. Like, so he was like a paranormal guy. Like, his best known book at the time that he published Ghost of Flight 401 was about Betty and Barney Hill, and it was called The Interrupted Journey. So, that doesn't mean that he's full of shit, but I don't know. You just have to be like really suspicious. Now, interestingly, in 1980, Robert Serling, who actually was related to Rod Serling, I can't remember how they were related, but he wrote a book about the history of Eastern Airlines, and it was called From the Captain to the Colonel. So it was just about the whole history, because the airline started in 1935 and was actually headed by World War I flying ace, Captain Eddie Rickenbacker. And then the late 1980s, when it was run by Colonel Frank Borman, who was an Apollo astronaut. Now, interestingly, Borman, who was the head of Eastern Airlines at the time of the disaster, was actually on site, like in the crash. Like, he actually went to the crash site and was like helping like rescue victims and stuff. Now, apparently in the book, he basically, like, the guy that wrote the Ghost of Flight 401 book, he said that the executives at the Eastern Airlines had tried to basically get the employees to shut up about the ghosts, and the actual people that worked for Eastern Airlines were going to sue But Borman, who was the head of Eastern at the time, was like, don't do that because then the book will just get more publicity. So let's just like keep it on the down. He didn't want to do like a Streisand effect on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he didn't want to draw more attention to it than it already had. So he's like, yeah, let's not do that. Let's not sue them, even though, you know. So basically, in this particular book, they did ask a lot of people who, you know, were actually named and who actually worked at the place at the time, and they said, you know, do you know? Have you seen this ghost? Have you heard about the ghost? And basically, none of them at the time said no. They're like, we've heard the ghost stories, but we heard them later. Like, you know, they didn't really know anything about it. So I kind of feel like maybe this is a case of somebody writing a book and, like, taking, like, a couple little things that were going around and, like, just weaving this whole, like, kind of book about it. And then it basically became, like, an urban legend. Because, they basically, the guy that wrote the book later, it's like we went to actual people that worked there and like asked them if they'd ever seen the ghost or heard or knew anybody that'd seen the ghost, and all of them said no, that they didn't know what they were talking about. So I kind of feel like this was kind of like, you know. So the guy that wrote the book in 1980, he also found the whole situation, because remember what I said about the plane, like that was gonna, you know, the emergency landing in Mexico City, and the ghost essentially like warned him about it and stuff.
Yeah.
And so he went and found all the people that were actually involved in that. And he said the whole thing about like the plane breaking down and the emergency landing and all that, that did happen. That's true. But nobody reported seeing a ghost in an oven before that. Like, he's like, I couldn't find any evidence of that.
Hugo's asking Mango about Horror at 37,000 Feet, which is the William Shatner haunted airplane movie. Asking him how good that movie was, and Mango says it's very good.
I remember liking it.
So
like I said, I saw it
too.
not long ago.
We'll put that on the list.
Well,
too.
let me write that down.
Okay, so we got the one we're gonna watch tonight, and then we'll watch Horror at 37,000 Feet. I want to see that one. I vaguely remember that Horror at 37,000 Feet. I vaguely remember.
I mean, I'm
that.
pretty sure we watched it.
We were kids when that
fairly
shit
recently.
came out. You know, I mean, I think it was like 73, and they were doing this reruns. You know, and by the time 76, 77, I vaguely remembered that one. But I think that was a pretty big movie. But at least on the rerun scene on television back in mid 70s. By the time VHS came out, that shit was long forgotten.
Well, it's crazy because in the 70s, I mean, like I said, people had like appointment TV. You know what I mean? It's like something was coming on.
You had to
watch it.
You had to watch it.
You couldn't tape it.
Right.
You couldn't watch it later.
Yeah.
You had to fucking see it. If you missed it, you fucking missed it.
Yeah, and what was funny is that for you youngsters, because we were babies when this shit was going on.
We're getting just like grandparents.
Yeah, we're going to sound like people's grandparents. We were babies when this shit was going on. Those movies, like the appointment TV she's talking about, I remember my dad's, oh no, that shit's coming on. We got to see this. Like, they're getting food ready and everything.
It's like a big deal. Yeah, like I said, it was like going to a show.
Like going to the movies.
Because like I said, if you missed it, you missed it.
Yeah, and they were like big budget. And people were like, oh man, that was great. Now they're watching this through CRT television. So it was low res. You weren't sure how good it was actually filmed or videotaped. You didn't, but it was a good television experience. I remember people, the adults, just enjoying the fuck out of it.
Well, and the thing is,
like,
people didn't really expect any better from TV.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like a TV event. I remember when Poseidon Adventure was on, when it was coming out on television. That might have been another appointment TV. I don't know if that was a movie or TV or whatever.
Well, Poseidon Adventure played in the theater.
Did it play in the theater? When it came out on TV, that was another appointment.
Yeah.
Everybody had to see that. This is all pre-Star Wars, you know what I mean? So people were not spoiled yet with special effects. Even though the special effects are pretty good on Poseidon Adventure for what it is. But I remember everybody getting the TV dinners and the TV trays out. Fucking, you know, tonight Poseidon Adventure is going to be on. We got to watch that, you know. But, you know, just the way it was back then. It's another era.
Trey says, someone get Jenny to look at the comments. What, it was the Twilight Zone episode Chat was in, guys. Well, I know he was in.
He was in
the
several.
one. Well, he was in the one with the, you know, man on the wing of the plane.
That's not what he's talking. That's not what Meg was talking about.
No, it's a movie. I've seen it.
Yeah, Meg was talking about another movie about a haunted airplane called Horror at 37,000 Feet. You can watch it free on YouTube. And it's got Shatner.
Wait a second. Was it a haunted airplane or was there like...
I think it's a haunted airplane.
I want to say it was like a cult. Wasn't it a cult on the plane?
According to Meg, it was a haunted airplane. And
I thought it was like a cult.
We'll see.
I don't know why that just occurred to me. Because, like I said, I remember watching it not too long ago. Like, I know everybody knows about, like, that was Nightmare at 37,000 feet or whatever it was. That was the Twilight Zone.
The Shat did a lot of fucking cult horror flicks. He did that one where he was out there in the fucking Old West talking to the devil.
The Devil's Reign.
Devil's Reign. Which is...
That also had Ernest
Borgnine. It was actually a good movie.
In goat horns.
Yeah. Good movie. Anton LaVey.
I like that movie.
Anton LaVey was involved.
I really like that movie. He was a consultant on it. He's in it for like a second.
Yeah. It's a good movie.
But yeah.
Good movie. For its time. You know, you watch it now and you're like, what? But
John Travolta was in that shit too.
Yeah,
for like 5 seconds.
That's right.
Yeah. Like that was like his first movie role? I'm not really sure. Like you can't tell it's him. I don't think he talks.
Satanic cult movie.
Yeah.
In the Old West.
Oh, that was another thing that was big in the 70s.
Yeah.
Satanic movies.
Yeah.
There was a lot of those.
And it's taking place in an abandoned Old West ghost town, more or less. Yeah.
We reviewed that not too long ago.
Yeah, we enjoyed it.
I've always really liked it.
It had decent special effects for the time and good acting. And Ernest Borgnine.
I think Ernest Borgnine looks cool as a goat man.
Yeah, he just fucking kills it.
Cool as a
kills
goat
it
man.
as fucking, I don't know, Satan or a cult leader kind of deal. It's hard to tell. He was a possessed cult leader. He, I guess, became satanic.
And people's
like
faces melted and shit like that. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Mango says Shatner plays the pilot. Not a cult on the plane. Has some devilish stuff involved. Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
We'll see it.
Mango said Race with the Devil is amazing. Oh yeah, that's another good one.
Yeah.
We reviewed that one a while back too. I think we did it as a double feature with The Car.
These fucking all went down in American history, and The Car, I think, kicked that shit off. It might have could have been Spielberg and fucking Duel kicked off.
Which was actually based on a Richard Matheson
right.
story.
And then there was
but Duel wasn't satanic.
No, but I think Duel kicked off the fucking... I think that actually kicked off fucking The Car, which is a satanic version of the Duel. And then the Satan thing started to come out, and there was lots of those.
Well, the Satan thing started with Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, okay.
And that was 1968.
60-something. So they blended the two.
And then The Exorcist was 1973.
Yeah.
So there was like a big...
Late 60s, early 70s, they were trying...
And the Manson murders. That was 1969.
Yeah, that was the time for Satan. That was the time for Satan.
That was like everybody was really into like satanic cult
even
shit.
fucking the Shat got into the Satan angle. And Borgnine.
Shat got into the Satan.
Yeah.
That was another thing. Every time I think of the 70s, I was thinking like, satanic cult movies, disaster movies, and eco-horror.
And then by the time the early 80s...
Like, quit putting mercury in the rivers. You're making fucking giant bear monsters.
And then late 70s, early 80s, The Evil came out, which was Satan in a House. That was good, too. It was good. I like that one.
Well, and then, like I said, late 70s and 80s, that was all like slasher movies then. Well, it wasn't all slasher movies, but that was like the big thing.
The Legacy.
That was
Satanic witches and shit.
That was also 78, was it not?
Yeah, I think so, around that time.
I think that was
The Legacy was great. Masterpiece.
Mango says Frogs.
Frogs was the fucking an anomaly.
I think we did that movie.
Yeah, we did.
That was another eco horror.
Yeah.
The weird thing about Frogs is that it's like not entirely about frogs. It's about like all the animals get mad and like fuck with us, not just frogs. It was frogs and butterflies and snakes and alligators and eagles and.
I agree with Mango that fucking The Car was better than Duel. I think it was. The Car was spookier.
Yeah, I get that.
It was the devil's car killing people. Look, let's finish.
Duel was more like.
It was just psychos, like the Hitcher.
Yeah.
Psychos out in the desert trying to get you.
Like for some reason, like I said, even though I don't believe in paranormal shit, if a movie is gonna scare me, it'll usually be like creepy, mysterious, paranormal-ish kind of shit. Like movies that are about things that could really happen. Like, hey, there's some just human psycho like following me in a car, or it's a serial killer or something. Like, I'll enjoy those, but they don't scare me, and I don't know why that is, because that shit could really happen.
I absolutely know about the paranormal, but I don't believe the paranormal tales told by Hollywood. Big difference. And then the fakers and shit. The real shit is like what we talked about before. You guys know me. Yeah. It's out there. Jenny's seen it.
Hugo says Christine.
Christine, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great car. That's a great car. That's a great... Well, it's a great car, but it's also a great movie. That was 83, though. Senor Sticks just got here. Oh, my God.
All right.
We're so drunk already. But
I got to make us something to eat here soon. How much is left on this?
Just
plate?
like a tiny amount.
Okay,
a tiny amount.
Okay.
What I was basically going to say is that the whole... I hate to, like, burst everyone's bubble, but the whole Ghost of Flight 401 thing probably just came from that book. Because a lot of the stuff that people talk about nowadays, like, oh, I saw the face in the oven and stuff, just came from that book. And the book came out 4 years after the actual incident. And when they did, like, interviews with actual people that were actually on the plane or, like, actually, like, knew anything about it, like, nobody really...
They didn't know anything about that.
Know much about it. Like, they'd heard the stories. They're like, yeah, we don't... That was, like, kind of bullshit.
The stories happened after.
And the thing about it, too, is that one of the things that probably... Here's probably what kicked off the whole thing. So, remember how I said, like, the guy that wrote the book, Serling, in 1980, he found out the whole, like, Mexico City plane thing. He's like, yeah, they really did have to do an emergency landing and it was fucked up and everything like that. But then, like, he found out later on that it's like nobody really said that they'd seen anybody's ghost, like, warning them about it or nothing. So what ended up happening, though, he found out that after this incident, like after the emergency landing, there was a party and somebody asked one of the pilots at the party, like, that had to do it, oh, how did that feel to have to land that plane with only one engine? And the guy jokingly said, oh, it was really scary. For a minute, I thought Don Repo's ghost was on the plane. That's what he said. Like, he made a joke. Oh, I thought there was a ghost on the plane. Like, fucking, you know what I mean? And I kind of feel like because he said that and that was publicized, somebody took that and ran with it.
And made the whole ghost
It just really kind of seemed like that.
Okay.
That really does seem like...
So that's maybe where this whole story came from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of what they're thinking. That's where they've traced it back to. Because that guy said that, and that was reported in the media, that he made that joke. So somebody's like, hey, got an idea. Because like I said, it was 4 years, like, when the book came out. But the thing about it, though, is that the whole thing about the ghosts appearing on later flights that had salvaged pieces from the crashed airline... That is actually not true, because the flight that crashed into the Everglades, nothing was salvaged from that plane. They're like, they wouldn't have installed, even if anything had survived from that crash that was like still in good enough shape, they would not have installed that into another plane.
Yeah.
And that's just not the procedure. They would not do that. And they're like, and anyway, like, nothing was in good enough shape to have put into another plane. You know what I mean? Mm. And I was reading on Skeptoid or something like that. They said basically just do a Google image search. And I do this because it's pretty fucked up. But they're like, do an image search for Flight 401 wreckage. And they're like, you will see from the photos that there is absolutely nothing that they could have salvaged from that shit, because it was just fucking complete wreckage. So there's no way that they would have like, hey, this oven still looks good.
I was like,
let's stick this on another plane. They wouldn't do that.
As soon as I heard you say that, I'm looking at that shit sideways, because I'm saying that's not how contractors work.
No, they wouldn't do that.
Because those companies are trying to supply shit. And they're like, oh, well, fuck that, man. We're talking about, we got a whole new plane. Buy 2 whole new planes at a discounted rate to replace that one. But they're going to be wheeling and dealing. They don't give a shit about some fuel injector or this and that. That's all.
That's what I mean. It's like, why? It's not. I mean,
the insurance wrote all that shit off.
These are big, like, billion-dollar companies.
Yeah.
They're not broke ass motherfuckers like me that are like looking. It's like, hey, that couch looks pretty good.
Yeah, that's worth $1,000
on the side of the road.
Yeah, no, it's not like that.
Maybe I could fix that leg that's all wonky.
Yeah, no,
they're not doing that.
No, they're being like, well, look, man, that's all written off. That's gone. Insurance got that. Listen, that. Look, and the dealers are saying they'll give us a better plane at a better price. We're gonna go with that one. No, they buy that shit as a fucking... They don't salvage parts out of wrecks.
And I mean, yeah,
the
like...
infrastructure isn't there.
Right.
The only thing that would happen with that wreck is that people fucking scavenging for fucking aluminum would show up and try to pick up as much aluminum as they can. They're like, man, it's 7,000 pounds of aluminum. Goddamn, that's fucking that's $2,000. Let's get that's $3,000. Let's get this shit out of here. You know, that's what they would do.
I mean, Senor Stick says, Jenny, they do recycle plain metal and parts. If it
the metal.
The metal and stuff.
The metal, yeah.
But I'm just saying, the whole crux of this story was like they took actual part, like the oven or the elevator from this crash and like stuck it in another plane. Yeah, and I don't think they would do that.
No, there's fucking planes sitting on lots ready to be sold. And those companies had all kinds of money and great credit lines. They just get into the plane.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like that's not... Yeah. You know, like I said, this oven still looks pretty good.
No, but
you can barely see the
scrappers would show up and scrap all that just for the price of the metal. That's what would happen.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. But
because it would be the cleanup crew,
right?
All right.
But yeah, so basically, happily, if anything like this can be happy, the thing about it is that usually. You can shit on the airlines all you want, but usually when a real big disaster like this happens, they usually do get on top of it and be like, okay, what caused that? Let's make sure that doesn't happen again. So after this happened, they did kind of install a bunch of new rules, a bunch of new safety protocols and stuff like that. They actually gave people flashlights as standard equipment, which actually hadn't been prior to this. It was 1972, for Christ's sake, which is 50 years ago. The flight attendants have to have shoulder harnesses, which they hadn't had before. They have to have, they installed new things where there'd be like an audio thing, like warning you when the autopilot shit was changed. So they had that stuff as well. And, so they did a lot of other like safety measures like after they had figured out like what went wrong. So, it did have a silver lining, even though a lot of people had to fucking die to do it. But... it's a cool ghost story and everything, and it made like a cool book and a cool movie, which we're going to watch after the show. Yeah. But I'm not entirely sure if it really happened.
Sounds like it's been fabricated.
Now, the first one that we talked about, Flight 191, that one, like I said, I don't really believe in ghosts, but that sounds more likely to me because they didn't really report... I don't know. It just seemed more plausible.
It wasn't anything outrageous, is what they reported.
Yeah.
The thing that gets me is that, according to the stories, the police said people called them reporting,
and said, "Hey, like people are knocking on our windows and doors," and apparently it happened a bunch of times.
Whether or not the police actually said that, we don't really know. I'm hiccuping like a fucking drunk.
Like you're drunk.
Like I'm drunk. I am drunk. I got shit I got to do. But if we could verify whether or not the police actually did say that would if they actually did say that would add some credibility to the story.
Yeah.
Which maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but there doesn't seem to be a way to verify that. Not over this span of time. That was a long time ago. Yeah. Everybody involved with that case is dead.
Well, I don't know about that. It was only 1979, but yeah.
A lot of people involved with UFO cases of the late 80s are now dead, isn't that something?
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were like older when you started out, yeah. Yeah. Because I was saying it's like...
Yeah, they're in their 40s and 50s then.
Right. So yeah, you'd be dead now.
Like some of the cool UFO cases, like UFO over Illinois, the Black Triangle cases.
Yeah, we did a show about that.
Those cops who were in their mid-30s, a lot of them are dead now. Isn't that spooky?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
And that was,
like
what, mid-90s? Yeah. Well, they just die of fucking things.
They die of things.
Things happen.
Thank you, Tom. That was very insightful.
Yeah.
People die of things. Tom Ross.
You're right, yeah. Shit, I'll put that shit on a shirt.
You're a fucking genius.
You might fucking die of a thing. Something will make you die. Look, man, let me get out of here.
No shit. All right.
Let me get out of here.
All right. We're going to wrap this up because we've been going for like 3 hours and 12 minutes.
Talking about Steven Seagal that goes, look, man, I just watched, they're talking about bringing up Seagal. I just watched fucking Expendables 3.
Oh, is that what that lab
Yeah.
shit was?
The unrated cut. I love the unrated cut. I've never seen the theatrical cut. Or I've never seen the theatrical cuts of any of these. I always watch the unrated cuts. I fucking love all three of those movies. Turns out, Expendables 4.
Thank you, Mango.
Thank you very much, Mango.
Drunk is cool.
Yeah, thank you. Turns out, Expendables 4 has Steven Seagal in it.
Wait, has that come out yet?
It's coming out at the end of this year. They're filming.
Nuh-uh.
Yes, Steven Seagal is in Expendables 4.
Are they teasing us?
According to Google, Steven Seagal's in that bitch.
Are they going to make fun of him the whole time? Because I might actually watch
They're
it.
They're going to do something crazy with him, okay?
I thought he didn't have a sense of humor, though.
The last I saw of Seagal online, and this is like from like material from like a year or two ago, I think based on what I saw, Seagal has embraced his meme. Okay?
All right, fair
he
play.
He knows that everybody knows he's
fair
fucking
play.
Full of shit.
That he's full of shit?
Yeah.
And he decided he's going to lean into it?
I think he's leaning into it.
That is probably the best thing for him to do.
It's the best thing he should do.
Although it's much funnier. Well, the thing about it... Steven Seagal is kind of in an impossible position because the reason he became a meme in the first place was because he was taking himself so seriously, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
Now, if he's in on the joke, it's not really as funny anymore.
I think he's kind of leaned into it like, yeah, it was bullshit.
It's not really as funny anymore. Like I said, it's the same conundrum that you fall into with the so good it's bad movie, or the so bad it's good movie, is that like if you're trying to make something bad, then it's not funny. But it's like if you're trying to make something good and you fail spectacularly, then it's hilarious. Yeah. And I kind of feel like that's what we're working with. So I don't know how it's gonna go now that he's actually realized that everyone's actually laughing at him and not with him. Yeah. And he's like, okay, I'm going to lean into that. But now it's not going to be funny anymore because it's like the whole thing that was funny was that he thought he took himself so seriously.
The thing about Seagal is that Seagal could have had a much more successful career had he had a sense of humor. The problem with his movies is not that they're bad. The problem with his movies is that they're boring. And that he's not actually in them.
And boring is the worst thing.
And that he's not actually in them.
Like I said, if you're going to make a bad movie, just go all in it. Make it the worst fucking movie you can possibly make.
I think he could have had a really fucking cool career. Had
just entertained.
Made a bunch of entertaining, shitty fucking flicks where he was actually in them. Instead of you having other people do his voice, other people dub in his voice, other people walk up and down the stairs with him so they don't see how fat he is. He should have just been like that. And been the fat action star. He has a fucking hardcore fan following.
He does.
And that's what he should have done, you know. They got dudes that look just like him that love him and want to see him as the action film.
I mean, a lot of horrible, shitty people have fan followings.
Yeah,
so it's like that doesn't really mean anything, but you know what I mean.
All right, let's go ahead and shut this down, Jen. We'll fucking call it a night, and I'll go make us something to eat.
All right, so we're gonna go eat something, and we're gonna watch The Ghost of Flavor.
Yeah, I want to see that.
And we'll see how that goes.
If I can stay awake.
Now that I might fall asleep in the middle of it, because like you know.
Yeah.
Because, but you know, this has kind of been a fun show.
Yeah.
So, all right, we will be back. We're gonna take tomorrow off to recover, and then on Friday we'll do our sidetracks show, talking about whatever the hell we feel like talking about, so that'll be fun. So thank you everybody for dropping by this evening. Thank you for super chats. Remember, we also have super thanks if you couldn't make it for the live stream, so you could just like give us a little tip right there. It's like a little heart with a fucking money sign in it or something like that. I don't remember what it looks like, but
send us some tips, bitches.
For us entertaining you, getting drunk and being stupid for your
They get drunk with us.
All right. And we'll see you guys again on Friday night. Good night.